So you're planning a trip to Glacier National Park, or maybe just wondering if it's worth all the hype. We've explored every corner of Glacier, the trails, the campgrounds, the dangers, and the hidden gems, and we're packing it all into this one ultimate guide. Let's kick things off with 10 advanced tips, insider advice to help you make the most of your first Glacier National Park adventure. Are you looking for the best tips when visiting Glacier National Park? Come on a hike with us on some of the best trails in Glacier National Park and Going to the Sun Road, as we cover 10 essential questions that you need to answer for a successful first visit. Let's get started. If you're committed to visiting Glacier National Park, the first question you need to ask while we hike to Avalanche Lake is, do I need a reservation to visit Glacier National Park? This one trips up a lot of first-time visitors because even if you have a park pass or are willing to pay at the gate, that doesn't guarantee entry. Glacier National Park has a seasonal vehicle reservation system in place for the best parts of the park, especially during the summer high season from July to mid-September. This applies to the most popular scenic corridor, Going to the Sun Road, as well as Mini Glacier and the North Fork areas, but it's not a blanket reservation. Each area requires a separate timed entry ticket, and they're only good for the specific road or region listed on the permit and can sell out within minutes, especially for Logan Pass. But if you miss out on a reservation, you can still enter before 6 a.m. or after 3 p.m., or with a tour, campground, or lodging booking that counts as a reservation for entry. But double check the rules because they change. We've got 9 more tips, but learn about the timed reservations and more in our video description. We'll cover hiking tips in a minute, but now that you know the reservation system is to help manage people in the park during busy season, let's hike Hidden Lake Overlook and answer, when is the best time to arrive at Glacier National Park to avoid crowds? If you're not a morning person, Glacier might just convert you, or you may want to stay home. That's because trailheads, especially the popular ones like Grinnell Glacier Trail, Avalanche Lake, and Hidden Lake Overlook, can fill up before the sun is fully risen. Parking lots at Logan Pass are often packed by 6:30 or 7 a.m., and it's not uncommon to see rangers turning people away due to full lots by mid-morning. Getting an early start also gives you cooler hiking temperatures, less intense sun, and often better chances of spotting wildlife like moose or mountain goats before they retreat from the heat. On the flip side, late afternoon to early evening can also be a great time, especially for sunset hikes, like we did to Red Rock Falls, which we'll show later, or just taking in golden hour views without the lunch hour traffic. The midday window from about 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is when the crowds peak. The sun is hottest and traffic slows to a crawl. So to avoid crowds at Glacier National Park, plan to arrive early, ideally before 7 a.m., or visit key areas in the late afternoon or evening. But the best reason to arrive early is that the out and back trails are terrible with two-way traffic. If you hike early, you'll enjoy hiking the trail without oncoming traffic, getting in your way on the way out. But on the way back, you'll learn what we mean. Speaking of hiking Grinnell Glacier, do you really need bear spray in Glacier National Park? Glacier is one of the few national parks where grizzly bear encounters are a real possibility, and black bears are common too. Rangers recommend every hiker or hiking group carry bear spray and know how to use it. That means keeping it on your hip or chest strap, not in your backpack, and practicing how to unclip and aim before you need it. Bear spray is more effective than a gun in deterring a charging bear, and bear spray doesn't harm the animal permanently and won't get you in trouble with the feds. But just having bear spray isn't enough. You should also hike in groups, make noise, especially around bends or near noisy streams, and avoid hiking at dawn or dusk when bears are most active. But never approach wildlife for photos. Get a zoom lens instead. You absolutely need bear spray in Glacier National Park, but only about 10 bear encounters have ended in death. Bear spray is available at many stores when you get to the park, but if you are lucky like us, you may just find an extra can of bear spray on the trail left by another hiker. Let's continue with hiking next, as we enjoy Trail to Cedars, and later we'll work on how the weather will affect your adventure. Are hikes in Glacier National Park difficult for beginners? Glacier has some beautifully accessible trails like easy Trail to Cedars, but even some of the easy ones can be surprisingly strenuous for first-time visitors. A trail marked as moderate may still have 800 feet of elevation gain in just a mile or two, and at higher elevations, even mild climbs can leave you winded. Trails like Avalanche Lake or Hidden Lake Overlook look short on paper, but they will be difficult for people that don't walk much. Add in altitude, sun exposure, and rugged terrain, and you've got a real workout. But there are fantastic options for less experienced hikers, like Trail to Cedars and Red Rock Falls. These offer big scenery with little effort. Glacier National Park hikes can be tough for beginners and those with limited mobility, especially if you're not used to mountain terrain. But with smart trail choices and realistic pacing, you can still have a great experience. But if you can walk every day leading up to your trip, where you can get in 2 miles of walking per day, you'll get yourself in pretty good shape to enjoy every easy hike in Glacier National Park. Conversely, Highline Trail is one of the hardest of the top 10 hikes in Glacier National Park, but it can get deadly if the weather is bad. So, what's the weather like in Glacier National Park? The weather in Glacier can change in a matter of minutes, especially at higher elevations or exposed ridgelines. It's not uncommon to start your day in full sun, hike through cloud cover, and get caught in a hailstorm on the way down. Or in our case, on Highline Trail, get delayed by pea soup fog and then discover some of the best panoramic views of our entire trip. But even in July and sometimes August, snowfields linger, especially on north-facing slopes, or higher trails like Highline Trail. Temperatures can swing 30 degrees in a single day, but trailheads can be warmer than higher elevation destinations. Carry a rain jacket, warm fleece, sun protection, and extra water even if you're only planning a short outing. Glacier National Park's weather changes throughout the day, so come prepared for sun, wind, rain, and even snow in the same day. We'll move on to going to the Sun Road next, but are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of the national parks we've visited in this way. Subscribe today so that when you search for Glacier National Park or other places we've visited, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the list. And are there gas stations and cell service in Glacier National Park? If you're used to Googling your way out of a jam, you might be okay. We have T-Mobile and found the cell service usable in St. Mary and West Glacier. But cell service is sketchy in the park, so don't rely on apps that need constant data. Bring paper maps and a compass and a guidebook. Gas and other items are available at the park entrances, so fill up your tank before you enter, especially if you're driving long distances between areas like Two Medicine and Mini Glacier. Download offline maps, save trail info, and if you're staying inside the park, enjoy being disconnected. Every good national park video needs a dad joke. Since we're on going to the Sun Road, have you heard that Teslas don't have that new car smell? Owners say that they have more of an Elon Musk. Okay, back to the list, and Swift Current Trail to Red Rock Falls. Can I do Glacier National Park in one day? Glacier National Park is one of the most diverse parks in the country. If you want to see the highlights from going to the Sun Road, you can do Glacier National Park in one day. But to truly enjoy the park, plan to hike a lot. Glacier National Park is huge and separated into sections with areas like Logan Pass, Mini Glacier, Two Medicine, and the North Fork, which are all separated by hours of driving, and that's without traffic or construction delays. But add in full parking lots, timed entry tickets, trail closures, and bear activity, and you'll quickly learn that flexibility is key. You might plan for Grinnell Glacier, which can take all day, and end up doing Red Rock Falls instead. And that's okay, because you can see moose. There's so much to see that you'll never feel shortchanged, but trying to do it all in one day or even in one trip is a fast track to failure. The last time we went to Glacier National Park, we stayed a week and we still didn't go on all the trails we wanted to. Why are you going to Glacier National Park? Tell us in the comments and join the conversation today. Okay, let's transition to Virginia Falls and answer, do I need a map if I'm just doing short hikes in Glacier National Park? Even short hikes can become confusing if trail names shift or you're dealing with snow patches, unmarked forks, or poor signage. Some trails, like the hike to Virginia Falls, have multiple intersections to navigate and signage varies in quality as you see here. But since you probably won't have a cell signal, smart to go old school with a paper map from the visitor center and a compass. Supplement that with a GPS hiking app with offline maps downloaded beforehand. Maps are also helpful if you need to detour. Find a bailout route or explain your location in case of an emergency. Everyone likes to go to the water when the sun is out, so let's head to Iceberg Lake for this question. Is the sun stronger at high elevations in Glacier National Park? At higher elevations, UV rays are much more intense, even when it's cloudy or cool. Combine that with reflective surfaces like snowfields and alpine lakes, and you've got a recipe for serious sunburn or even snow blindness if you're not wearing proper eye protection. Many visitors feel fine while hiking, only to crash later with headaches, dehydration, or sun fatigue. That's why it's essential to wear broad-spectrum sunscreen, a wide-brimmed hat, and UV-blocking sunglasses, and to drink water constantly, even if you're not sweating much. Yes, the sun is stronger at high altitudes in Glacier than probably where you live, so protect yourself like you're on a beach, even if you're surrounded by snow. When you are visiting Glacier, you need a place to stay. So let's walk through St. Mary KOA and answer, where should I sleep when visiting Glacier National Park? First come, first serve campgrounds such as Mini Glacier and Two Medicine often fill up by 5 to 6 a.m. And people sometimes line up before sunrise just to snag a site. If you're not an early riser, you'd better book one of the reservation-only campgrounds like Fish Creek or Apgar months in advance. But if you don't mind staying outside the park, we like St. Mary KOA and Mountain Meadow RV Park. Glacier camping is absolutely worth it. Waking up in nature, steps from the trail, but it requires planning or a lot of flexibility. Keep in mind, some campgrounds have closures due to bear activity or road construction. Glacier's value campgrounds and surrounding budget lodging options fill up incredibly early, so plan ahead. We'll dive into campground details later, but first, let's hit the trail. Our first adventure takes us to one of Glacier's most breathtaking and challenging hikes, Grinnell Glacier. Did you know hiking to Grinnell Glacier is over 11 miles long? But that's not the hardest part. What's worse is that you have to hike up an elevation higher than climbing any skyscraper in Chicago and hike back down. Come on a journey with us for 10 questions you should ask to learn whether you'll regret hiking Grinnell Glacier. Let's get started. One of the first questions people ask is, how long does it take to hike Grinnell Glacier Trail? Hiking the Grinnell Glacier Trail typically takes between 7 to 8 hours round trip, though actual time can vary based on fitness level, weather conditions, and how long you spend at the glacier. For experienced hikers who maintain a brisk pace with minimal stops, the trek may take closer to 6.5 to 7 hours, while those who prefer a more leisurely pace, take frequent breaks, or spend extra time admiring the views at the glacier may take closer to 8.5 hours or more. Have you ever walked a full day? Most hikers spend about 3.5 to 4 hours reaching the glacier, as the ascent is gradual but continuous. The final stretch of the trail can be particularly challenging, which we'll show later, as it includes some narrow sections with steep drop-offs and potential lingering snowfields, especially earlier in the season. Once at the top, many people spend anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour exploring the area, taking photos, enjoying lunch, or even dipping their feet in the frigid glacial waters. The descent usually takes 2.5 to 3.5 hours, as the return trip is all downhill and less physically demanding. But many hikers find the descent to be just as slow as the way up, due to the rocky terrain, two-way traffic, and potential for fatigue after the long climb. We'll talk about how hard it is to hike Grinnell Glacier Trail and whether you should bring kids along later, but what gear should you take with you to hike Grinnell Glacier Trail? Hiking with the right gear for the Grinnell Glacier Trail is essential to ensure a safe, comfortable, and enjoyable hike. Hikers should be well prepared for varying terrain and unpredictable mountain weather. Sturdy, well broken in hiking shoes or boots are a must, as the trail includes rocky and uneven sections. Trekking poles are highly recommended to reduce strain on the knees and provide stability, especially on the descent. We also hiked with a rescue rope. Check out our video description for the gear we use day hiking Glacier National Park. Hydration is critical on this strenuous trail, so hikers should carry at least 2 to 3 liters of water per person. A hydration day pack is a great option for easy sipping while on the move. Do you have back issues? If so, it may be difficult to carry a day pack with 10 to 20 pounds of gear. Weather conditions in Glacier National Park can change rapidly, so layering is key. A lightweight rain jacket is essential in case of sudden showers, and an insulating layer can help in the cooler temperatures near the glacier. Sun protection is also crucial, as much of the trail is exposed. Hikers should bring sunglasses, sunscreen, a hat, and lightweight, breathable long sleeves to protect against UV rays. Even in summer, the wind can be chilly, so having a hoodie or beanie and lightweight gloves may come in handy. We'll continue later with what to pack for hiking Grinnell Glacier, but right now let's answer the question, what wildlife can you see on the Grinnell Glacier Trail? The Grinnell Glacier Trail offers some of the best opportunities for wildlife viewing in Glacier National Park, as it passes through a variety of habitats that support a diverse range of animals. Among the most well-known and potentially dangerous wildlife sightings are grizzly bears and black bears. The mini glacier area where the trail is located is prime grizzly habitat, and hikers spot these magnificent animals foraging in meadows or walking along the slopes. Black bears are also commonly seen, though they tend to be smaller and more solitary than their grizzly counterparts. Because of the likelihood of encountering bears, carrying bear spray is essential, and hikers should always make noise, travel in groups, and follow all park guidelines for bear safety. Beyond bears, the Grinnell Glacier Trail is home to more likely wildlife encounters. Bighorn sheep are often seen along the rocky ridges, especially higher up near the glacier. Their ability to navigate steep, rugged terrain makes them an impressive sight. Mountain goats with their thick white coats are also a common sight along the trail, particularly near exposed cliffs and alpine areas. We saw mountain goats high up above the glacier on a patch of grassland near the mountain peaks. These sure-footed climbers are well adapted to the high elevations of Glacier National Park and are often spotted resting on rocky ledges or grazing in alpine meadows. Are you afraid of large animals, and are you comfortable discharging bear spray? The answer to this question should be part of your decision to hike Grinnell Glacier. In addition to large mammals, moose are sometimes seen near Lake Josephine or Swift Current Lake, where they wade into the water to feed on aquatic plants. Though less common than bears or goats, a moose sighting is always a special experience. Elk may also be spotted in the area, particularly in the morning or late evening hours. We saw moose at a distance far below the trail next to Grinnell Lake. The trail is also home to a variety of smaller animals and birds. Marmots and pikas, two of the park's most charming alpine creatures, are frequently seen among the rocks along the trail. Marmots are larger groundhog-like rodents known for their loud whistles, while pikas are tiny, mouse-like mammals that dart between the boulders. Are you enjoying this walk and talk format? We share all of our national park adventures in this way to show you what you need to know. Subscribe now so that when you search for your next adventure, our videos come up at the top of your search results. What items should you pack for hiking Grinnell Glacier Trail? Since the hike requires sustained energy, bringing high-calorie snacks like trail mix, protein bars, nuts, and fruit is advisable. Many hikers enjoy having lunch at the glacier, so packing a hearty sandwich or something satisfying can make for a rewarding break at the turnaround point. But know that there are pit toilets there too, so feel free to take electrolytes or a sports drink to help replace lost minerals and prevent dehydration, especially on hot days. A small first aid kit with blister treatment, bandages, antiseptic wipes, and pain relievers is another essential safety item. Your brood may trip or stumble, and a band-aid may be the difference between turning around early or a happy adventure. Since hikes can sometimes take longer than expected, carrying a headlamp or flashlight with extra batteries ensures you won't get caught in the dark, especially if you start your hike after lunch. Additional items that can enhance the hike include a camera or smartphone to capture the stunning scenery. But consider binoculars too. We saw moose at a distance and didn't have optics to get a good look. Also carry a trail map to understand your location on the trail. For kids and adults alike, pack a sweet treat like gummy worms to motivate hikers when the trail gets long. But can kids hike the Grinnell Glacier Trail? Whether kids can hike the Grinnell Glacier Trail depends largely on their age, endurance, experience, health, and willingness to take on a challenging hike. This trail is considered strenuous, spanning over 11 miles round trip with 1,600 feet of elevation gain, making it a tough trek even for many adults. For older children, 10 and up, who have some hiking experience and are used to longer trails with elevation gain, the hike can be doable with proper breaks, hydration, and motivation. Our brood just got out of their soccer season, and my daughter was almost 12 when we went to Glacier. We've been hiking for 7 years, so they know what to expect. But even these 10-mile trails and Glacier were kicking their butts. And ours too. But kids who enjoy outdoor adventures and have hiked at least 6 to 8 miles on previous trails may find the challenge rewarding, especially with the promise of seeing a glacier and wildlife. We would discourage kids under 10 from attempting this hike. We saw families with small children and it looked difficult and dangerous. Carrying a child in your arms, piggyback, in a carrier, or on your shoulders is dangerous on Grinnell Glacier Trail. On our hike, we experienced strong winds, more than on any other hike. We thought we would be blown off the trail and many times literally hit the deck to get low to the trail until gusts subsided. There are bears too, but falling off the trail is a real danger on the second half of the trail, especially if you have little ones that like to wander. We found hikes 5 to 6 miles or shorter to be best for little explorers. Check out our video description for suggestions. Now for a couple of quick questions, and later we'll talk about shortening the hike by taking the mini glacier boat shuttle. Can you swim in Grinnell Glacier? Although swimming in Grinnell Glacier is possible, it is extremely cold due to the glacial meltwater. Most people who attempt it can only stay in for a few seconds before the frigid temperatures become overwhelming. If you're daring enough and enjoy being a polar bear, You can take a quick dip for the thrill, but be prepared for an ice cold shock. How do you get to Grinnell Glacier Trail? To reach Grinnell Glacier Trail, you need to go to the mini glacier area of Glacier National Park. From St. Mary's, Montana, where most people stay, it is a 30-minute drive to Mini Glacier Hotel. If you are looking for a campground, check out the video description for our review of St. Mary's KOA. The trailhead starts near the Mini Glacier Hotel, or the Grinnell Glacier picnic area. Parking is limited, so arriving early is highly recommended. How hard is it to hike to Grinnell Glacier? The trail covers over 11 miles round trip, and as we said, it has an elevation gain of 1,600 feet, which means a steady uphill climb for much of the hike. The trail starts at about 5,000 feet and ascends from there, making altitude a factor. For perspective, the hike at 1,600 vertical feet is a climb higher than any skyscraper in Chicago. The trail is rated difficult and should be considered for experienced hikers and those in good health. The hike just continues to climb once you get past Lake Josephine and doesn't stop. When you think you are near the top, the climb continues over many more ridges and you'll wonder if it ever ends. But get your rest at the glacier, because the return hike can be more difficult. We found it particularly hard to travel the single-lane trail with two-way traffic. As hikers are coming up, they are to receive the right-of-way, which can slow your descent when all you want to do is get back to the hotel in a comfortable chair. With the trail being so difficult, you may be asking, should I take the boat to shorten the hike to Grinnell Glacier? If you're looking to shorten the Grinnell Glacier Trail, taking the Mini Glacier boat shuttle across Swift Current Lake and Lake Josephine might be considered a great option. The boat ride reduces the round-trip hiking distance by about 4 miles, bringing the total hike down to 7.6 miles instead of 11.5 miles. While this still makes for a challenging trek, it can make the journey more manageable for those who want to conserve energy for the steeper portions of the trail. The boat saves effort by eliminating a mostly flat but lengthy section of the hike that winds through the Mini Glacier Valley, but it does not bypass the most difficult part of the hike, the steady uphill climb leading to Grinnell Glacier, and the first boat doesn't leave until 8 a.m. So you also risk two-way traffic on the trail, which causes delays and tiring stop-and-go hiking. If you take the boat, you will disembark at the far end of Lake Josephine. One important factor to consider is boat reservations. The Mini Glacier boat tours are extremely popular, especially in peak summer months, and often sell out in advance. If you plan to take the boat, it is highly recommended that you book your tickets ahead of time to secure a spot. Walk-up availability can be limited, and missing the boat could force you to hike the full trail. Additionally, you'll need to factor in the boat schedule. If you miss the last return boat at 5 p.m., you'll have to hike back the full way. But remember, this hike can be 7 to 8 hours. So if you get the 10 a.m. boat or later departure, you might not make it back by 5 p.m. to get the return boat to the hotel. For hikers who want a mix of both experiences, one option is to take the boat in one direction, either on the way up to save energy for the climb, or on the way down to reduce the strain on your knees. Some visitors prefer to hike out in the morning and take the boat back in the afternoon, while others take the boat first to get an early start on the ascent. Ultimately, taking the boat isn't necessary for completing the Grinnell Glacier Trail, but it's a great option for those wanting a shorter hike while still experiencing the stunning scenery. We had boat tickets but canceled at the last minute, and we're thankful we did. We ended up hiking earlier, enjoying reduced traffic, and enjoyed the hike around the lakes. But another reason is that we didn't want to be rushed with the 5 p.m. deadline for the last shuttle. Will you take the boat shuttle? Join the conversation and let us know in the comments. Why is the Grinnell Glacier Trail so special? The Grinnell Glacier Trail is widely regarded as one of the most iconic and breathtaking hikes in Glacier National Park, offering an unforgettable journey through some of the park's most stunning landscapes. What makes the trail so special is the diverse and dramatic scenery that unfolds along the route, making every step a visual masterpiece. From the very start, hikers are treated to panoramic views of Swift Current Lake and Lake Josephine, two strikingly blue glacial lakes that set the stage for the adventure ahead. As the trail gains elevation, it winds through lush alpine meadows filled with wildflowers where vibrant colors contrast beautifully with a rugged mountain backdrop. We couldn't believe all the wildflowers that blanket the landscape in a rainbow of colors, and no video can show its complete beauty. One of the most awe-inspiring features of the hike is the cascading waterfalls that tumble down from the towering cliffs above. These natural water features, fed by glacial melt, create a truly magical atmosphere, especially in the early season when they are at their fullest. But what is even more fun is hiking through a waterfall that splashes over the trail. So consider whether you want to hike through the waterfall, because it was scary for many hikers on the trail. As you climb higher, the views become even more dramatic, revealing a sweeping vista of the Grinnell Valley, with its turquoise lakes, towering peaks, and suspended glaciers. Of course, the ultimate highlight of the hike is Grinnell Glacier itself. Standing at the viewpoint near the glacier, hikers are rewarded with an up-close look at one of the last remaining active glaciers in the park. The shimmering blue ice, floating icebergs, and glacial water beneath the glacier create a surreal and humbling scene, serving as a powerful reminder of the beauty that makes Glacier National Park special. Now that you've seen why people fall in love with Glacier National Park, it's time to talk about the other side, the frustrations and challenges that surprise a lot of visitors. And after that, we'll take a drive you'll never forget. Glacier National Park isn't all sunshine, mountain goats, and glacial views. In fact, plenty of visitors leave here frustrated or even angry if they get to Glacier at all. Come on a hike with us along the top trails in Glacier National Park while we share 9 questions you should ask to decide if Glacier might not be the park for you. By the end of this video, you'll know the bad and the ugly, so if you want to plan your first trip, you'll be ready. Let's get started. While we hike Highline Trail, the first question you should ask is, why do people say Glacier National Park is too crowded? Around 3 million people visit Glacier National Park every year, but other popular parks like Zion see about 5 million each year. What is special about Glacier is that the popular part of the park is only open 2.5 months. In 2022, Going to the Sun Road didn't open until the middle of July, and the road often closes in early October. So if you are planning ahead, you need to visit in August to make sure you can access the park. But if you do get there, you will have to wake up before sunrise, hoping to grab a parking spot at Logan Pass and other popular spots. But when you arrive, you discover that people slept in their cars and the lot is already full if you are just a bit late getting out the door. You try the shuttle, but the line wraps around the building and several full buses pass you by before you even board. Once on the trail, the two-way traffic starting mid-morning disrupts your stride, ruins your hike. But once you get to the picture-perfect spots, everyone else is there filming their TikToks. Instead of the tranquil wilderness you envisioned, it feels like rush hour in the mountains. Later, we'll talk about what the wildlife can do to ruin your trip, but what Glacier has done to reduce overcrowding may make you miss your trip this year altogether. Why does the Glacier National Park reservation system frustrate so many visitors? If you plan ahead, you've booked your hotel, packed your gear, and driven hundreds of miles to reach the park. But at the entrance, a ranger tells you that you need a separate vehicle reservation just to access the Going to the Sun Road. You scramble to get it on your phone, but the system says it's sold out. Confused and disappointed, you realize you've done everything right, except for that one overlooked detail buried in the fine print. You need a vehicle reservation to access the best parts of the park. When we visited, we planned ahead, and for each day of our visit, we were online at 10 a.m. Eastern or 7 a.m. on the West Coast, 120 days prior to get our vehicle reservation. I had to block out time at work to make sure I could be uninterrupted on my computer because these tickets are harder to get than Taylor Swift in 2024. But say you've planned everything and you have your reservations and you make it to Glacier National Park. You have no control over the weather. So while we hike Iceberg Lake Trail, is the weather really that bad in Glacier National Park? Imagine this, you begin your hike under sunny skies, but within an hour you're caught in freezing rain. Or you try to beat the morning rush only to discover, like we did, that Logan Pass was socked in with a fog we've never experienced before. The views vanish into the fog and the hike begins 2 hours later, colder than expected. But what could be worse is a snowstorm that closes the road, which prevents you from hiking at all. Or there is a wildfire that settles in for days during late summer, obscuring the views and making it hard to breathe. But there are also wildfires in the park that close sections like what occurred at St. Mary in Virginia Falls in 2015. The weather in Glacier National Park can be brutal and unpredictable, ruining your vacation. We will discuss why people hate hiking a bit later, but every good hiking video needs a dad joke. What did the 0 say to the 8? That belt looks good on you. Okay, back to the list. And why do some visitors complain about not seeing wildlife? You spend hours hiking the trails, hoping for a glimpse of a bear, moose, or mountain goat, but all you see are squirrels and chipmunks. The ranger said wildlife was active early in the morning, but your late start and the crowd seem to scare everything off. When a bear finally appears near the road, a swarm of tourists rushes in, causing a traffic jam and making it hard to enjoy the moment. But just because you see all of these photos online, the large animals are more shy than you realize. On the trails, we may have seen 1 to 2 large animals, if at all, but not the number of animals we expected to see when we were doing our research. That's why so many people leave Glacier disappointed by the lack of wildlife sightings. But many people don't do enough research while planning to visit Glacier National Park, and they miss one very important thing while we hike Grinnell Glacier Trail. Is Glacier National Park too difficult or dangerous for casual hikers? You'll plan a big hike after seeing beautiful photos, but once you're on the trail, the elevation gain hits you hard. The trail is longer than you thought, and snow patches make things slippery. You pass warning signs about bears, and as you climb higher, narrow ledges with steep drop-offs make your legs shake. Your brood is complaining halfway through. The trails are difficult enough during calm, sunny weather, but no one tells you how bad hikes can be when Mother Nature shows up. We had wind on Grinnell Glacier Trail, as you see here, and it almost blew us off the trail. We actually had to lower ourselves to the ground to wait for the gusts to pass. You didn't expect a walk in the park to feel so risky. That's why casual hikers sometimes feel Glacier is more dangerous than they expected. Going to the Sun Road is next, and later we will discuss where you're not going to eat or sleep well. But do you like this walk and talk format? Subscribe today so that the next time you search a park we've been to, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Okay, let's get back to the list while we share views from going to the Sun Road. Say you did your research and happily chose to view Glacier National Park from the driver's seat. You better ask this question. Why do people hate driving going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? Do you know a 34-year-old man died in a rollover crash on going to the Sun Road during our visit last year? You're excited to see one of the most scenic drives in America, but once you hit the narrow mountain turns, your hands tighten on the steering wheel and anxiety sets in. The road clings to the edge of a cliff with no guardrail, only a rock knee wall, and oncoming traffic feels just inches away. But opposing traffic often is scared too, and they end up in your lane, afraid to hit the cliff or afraid of falling off the cliff. You want to enjoy the views, but your eyes are glued to the pavement, and your stomach is in knots. But you also have to get by large vehicles that don't pull their mirrors in. Your passengers aren't much more relaxed, and they are distracting your focus. Going to the Sun Road is more terrifying than beautiful to many. What are you worried about with your visit to Glacier National Park? Join the conversation and leave a comment today. While we hike Hidden Lake Overlook, why do people get angry when trails are closed in Glacier National Park? Picture this. You've planned this trip for months and built your entire itinerary around your favorite hikes. You arrive early only to see a sign posted at the trailhead saying it's closed due to bear activity. You try another trail, but it's blocked for maintenance. But the trail could be closed because the snow hasn't melted yet, or because there was snow the night before. Even the ranger station isn't sure when things will reopen. You're left scrambling for backup options, knowing you may not get another chance to return. But when you visit the other trails, they are busy because the other trails are closed. Now you know why visitors get so upset when glacier trails close unexpectedly, as they often do. After a long day in the park, you might want to sit down to a good meal and a good night's sleep. But why are lodging and dining such a problem near Glacier National Park? You try to book a hotel months before your trip and find everything within the park is already sold out. You settle for a cabin an hour away, but after a long day of hiking, you're too tired to make the drive back. Restaurants are few and far between, and when you finally find one, there's a 90-minute wait, and it's the only place open past 7 p.m. You search for self-service to find another option, but there's none. As we mentioned before, the community has about 2.5 months to make their business profitable for the year. For many, it's just not enough to make a go of it. People are disappointed when the area around Glacier lacks the convenience and comfort they are used to and expect at such an overhyped national park. Which leads us to our next question, an Avalanche Lake Trail. Why do people think Glacier National Park is overhyped? You've seen the pictures online. Turquoise lakes, towering peaks, and wildlife around every corner. But when you arrive, smoke from distant wildfires dulls the colors and hides the horizon. Your top trails are closed, and instead of a peaceful hike, you find yourself jostling through a crowd. You wanted an unforgettable experience, but nothing seems to match the fantasy. Did everyone on Instagram Photoshop their photos? But the other issue is services. There just isn't a lot of businesses to provide the creature comforts people expect around Glacier National Park. That's when people start to feel that Glacier doesn't live up to its hype. If you're still in, pain, crowds, and all, you're about to be rewarded with one of the most scenic drives on earth, going to the Sun Road. And stick around after that, because we'll share 10 more reasons why Glacier National Park is absolutely worth it. Going to the Sun Road is dangerous, but many of the best glacier hikes and viewpoints are on this iconic road. So come on a journey with us as we answer 10 questions you need to ask before exploring going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. Let's get started. We'll discuss the reservation system in a little bit, but Glacier National Park is huge with 8 vast sections, and there is a lot to see. So the first question you should ask is, what is special about going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? Going to the Sun Road is not just a way to get across Glacier National Park. It's one of the most iconic scenic drives in the entire country. Built in the 1930s, the road stretches about 50 miles from West Glacier to St. Mary and takes you straight through the heart of the park, crossing the Continental Divide at Logan Pass. It's famous because of the way it was built, literally carved into the mountainsides, with views of glacial valleys, snow-capped peaks, and waterfalls spilling right next to the road. Make sure you close your sunroof. You can see so much of Glacier's dramatic scenery without ever stepping out of your car, although you'll definitely want to stop and explore, and we'll share some easy hikes later. But for many visitors, driving going to the Sun Road is the highlight of their entire trip, because it packs in so many jaw-dropping views in such a short span for those who don't enjoy epic, strenuous hiking. But the road isn't open all year, so when does going to the Sun Road open and close? This is one of the most common questions, and the answer is, it depends. The road is closed every winter because snow buries the alpine section near Logan Pass. We're talking 80 to 100 feet of snow in some spots. Plowing usually starts in April, but it takes crews weeks to remove the snowpack, repair damage, and make the road safe. Typically, the road doesn't fully open until late June or early July, and it closes again by mid-October when the snow comes back. If you're visiting in May or early June, you can still drive the lower sections from West Glacier up to Avalanche or from St. Mary up toward Jackson Glacier Overlook, and those sections are still gorgeous. But the real spectacle is to drive over Logan Pass, so you'll want to plan your trip for July, August, or September, if that is your goal. But even summer snowstorms in June and after the middle of August can close the road for a day or more during peak season. Always check the official Glacier National Park website before your trip for up-to-date communications on plowing progress and road status. Many casual travelers can get surprised by this next issue, and coming up later we'll talk about the best viewpoints along the route. Did you know that you need to ask? Do I need a reservation to drive on going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? From late May through early September, Glacier National Park requires both your entrance pass and a vehicle reservation to drive the road between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. These reservations were added because the road was getting so crowded that parking lots at places like Logan Pass would be completely full by sunrise. The system helps spread people out, but it does mean you have to plan ahead. Reservations can be tricky to get since they open months in advance and sell out quickly. But don't worry if you miss one, there are still options. You can enter before 6 a.m. or after 3 p.m. without a reservation, which is actually a great strategy because sunrise and late afternoon are the most peaceful times on the road. But we'll share later why morning might not be the best option. Another option is to ride the free park shuttle or book a red bus tour, both of which let you experience the road without driving yourself. But these rules change, so again, check the NPS website to learn more. We'll put a link in our video description along with other resources for your trip. Read it now while you watch. Now that we are through the permit requirements, let's discuss the best stops, and later we'll give you some tips to drive going to the Sun Road safely. Where are the best stops along going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? This road is full of so many incredible stops that you'll never get to all of them in one trip. On the west side, Avalanche Creek is a perfect first stop. Here you can walk the handicap-accessible Trail of the Cedars, a short loop through a towering old-growth forest, and if you have more time and ability, hike the Avalanche Lake Trail for big mountain and lake views. But bring your swimsuit, as there are pull-offs to Lake McDonald and the river that feeds into the lake for you to sun on the rocks and go for a swim. As you climb toward Logan Pass, the pullouts at places like the Loop, Big Bend, and Oberlin Bend offer some of the most photogenic views of the park. Logan Pass itself is the crown jewel. It's the highest point on the road and the starting point for both the Highline Trail and the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail, two of the most iconic hikes in Glacier National Park. On the east side, you'll find Jackson Glacier Overlook, one of the few places you can still see a glacier from the road, and the short hike to St. Mary and Virginia Falls, where you can stand right next to roaring waterfalls. Every turn and pullout has something new, so the best tip is to give yourself time to stop often and take it slow. Every good national park video needs a dad joke. Since we're on going to the Sun Road, where you can see a variety of wildlife, what kind of car does a bighorn sheep drive? A Lamborghini. perfect for navigating the twists and turns of going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. Okay, back to the list, and how long does it take to drive going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? If you were to drive straight through without stopping, it would take about 2 hours to cover the 50 miles. Double the time to 4 hours if you need to make it a round-trip adventure. But the real magic of going to the Sun Road is in stopping, getting out, and taking your time. Most people spend half a day to a full day on the road, depending on how many hikes they do. For example, you could make it a short half-day trip by just driving the road and stopping at a few overlooks. Or you could turn it into a full day by hiking Avalanche Lake in the morning, enjoying the drive up to Logan Pass, then taking the short Hidden Lake Overlook Trail before continuing to the east side. If you're a serious hiker, pairing the Highline Trail with the drive will easily fill your entire day. The last time we visited Glacier National Park, we drove going to the Sun Road 3 times. The bottom line is, don't treat this road as a highway to get from point A to point B. Treat it as an experience in itself. Before we get to the next question, do you explore national parks from your car, or would you rather get out and hike? Join the conversation in the comments today and let us know. If you are more of a hiker, you'll want to ask, what are the best hikes off going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? Some of Glacier's most famous hikes start right from going to the Sun Road and are the most popular. Avalanche Lake is a crowd favorite because it's only a few miles and gets you to a stunning alpine lake surrounded by waterfalls. But to get to Avalanche Lake, you must hike Trail of the Cedars, which is flat and accessible, making it great for families or anyone who just wants a quick taste of Glacier's lush forest. At Logan Pass, the Hidden Lake Overlook is a must. It's only about 3 miles round trip, but the view of Hidden Lake framed by Bear Hat Mountain is unforgettable, and you'll often spot mountain goats and marmots along the way. But for serious hikers, the Highline Trail is legendary. It follows the Continental Divide with panoramic views the entire way down to the loop. On the east side, the St. Marion, Virginia Falls hike is perfect if you love waterfalls, and it's a great option for a family-friendly walk. But parking is limited. Whether you're looking for a quick stroll or a multiple-day adventure, this road has more than most can handle. Next is a question you better ask ahead of time, and later we'll give you some tips to make the most of your time on going to the Sun Road. Can RVs or large vehicles drive going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? Not the entire road. Because the alpine section is narrow and winding with steep drop-offs, there are strict size restrictions. Vehicles longer than 21 feet, wider than 8 feet, or taller than 10 feet are not allowed between Avalanche Creek and Rising Sun. To put it in easy terms, no, you can't drive large vehicles on the best part of going to the Sun Road. In fact, the road is so narrow that the National Park Service requires full-size pickup trucks to pull in their side mirrors. But it wasn't policed. If you're in an RV, towing a camper, or driving a bus, you'll have to park at one of the visitor centers or campgrounds and use the shuttle or a guided tour to experience that section. The good news is the road was designed for smaller vehicles anyway. Driving something compact makes it much easier to navigate the curves and pullouts. Many RV travelers choose to set up camp and then rent a car or hop on a tour to fully enjoy the road. We only saw Class B camper vans or normal passenger vehicles on going to the Sun Road during our trip. Are you liking this question and answer format? We share all of our adventures in this way to help you plan your first trip. Subscribe now so that the next time you search Glacier National Park or another place we've been to, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the list. And how difficult is going to the Sun Road to drive in Glacier National Park? Going to the Sun Road is safe when nobody else is on it, but it can feel intimidating if you're not used to mountain roads. What makes the road dangerous are people distracted by the views, scared about hitting the cliff or falling off the cliff, and those that are in a hurry. Some sections are carved right into the cliffside, with steep drop-offs and no guardrails, especially near Logan Pass. That said, the speed limit is low, usually between 25 and 45 miles per hour, and the road is well maintained. There are frequent pullouts where you can let faster drivers pass or stop to take in the view. If you're nervous about the drive, you can always ride the free shuttle or book a red bus tour. That way, you get to sit back, enjoy the scenery, and let someone else handle the curves. The most important tip is to go slow, stay alert, and don't let the drop-offs distract you. There will always be safe places to pull over and admire the view. If you plan to drive the road more than once, it is also a good idea to switch drivers so that everyone has the chance to enjoy the views while another is safely focused on the road. When is the best time of day to drive going to the Sun Road? Some say the number one tip is to start early. If you enter before 6 a.m., you skip the vehicle reservation requirement. You'll have a much easier time finding parking at places like Logan Pass, and you'll catch some of the best light for photography, unless the weather is bad. We drove up to Logan Pass early to hike Highline Trail and get those photos and almost stopped dead on going to the Sun Road because pea soup fog prevented us from seeing 5 feet in front of our truck. Here are photos from Logan Pass 2 hours after we parked. Wildlife like mountain goats, bighorn sheep, and even bears are also more active in the early morning. But the only wildlife we saw next to the road were bighorn sheep in the middle of the day. More important is that bicyclists like to ride in the morning. If you're impatient, hanging behind a bicycle waiting for a safe place to pass will set you off. But if you wait until later, you may find different colors and beautiful sunsets. So timing is unique for each traveler based on what they want from their day. But if you pair the drive with 1 or 2 hikes to really experience the park, Avalanche Lake and Hidden Lake Overlook are great choices if you want to experience this section of the park in one day. The Highline Trail is perfect for an all-day challenge that will leave no time for anything else. Pack food, snacks, and water since there are no restaurants along the road, and bring layers because the temperature can be 20 to 30 degrees cooler at Logan Pass than down at Lake McDonald. Going to the Sun Road is just one reason to love Glacier National Park, but there are plenty more. Here are 10 of our favorites. And up next, we'll chase 2 of the park's most iconic waterfalls. Did you know that going to the Sun Road was built in the 1930s, about 100 years ago? To learn more about this iconic road over Logan Pass and 9 other amazing facts about Glacier National Park, come hike with us on some of our favorite adventures. Let's get started. We like to use a question-answer format, so while we hike to St. Mary and Virginia Falls, let's answer. Why is Glacier National Park so special? Glacier National Park is in northwestern Montana, right on the Canadian border, and it connects with Canada's Waterton Lakes National Park to form the Waterton Glacier International Peace Park. But did you know this special relationship created the first park of its kind in the world? What makes Glacier National Park so special is its incredible diversity. In just one park, you'll find towering peaks, over 700 miles of hiking trails, 762 lakes, dense forests, rushing rivers, and active glaciers. But it's also one of the most intact ecosystems in the lower 48 states, meaning you can experience the land much as it was hundreds of years ago. That combination of raw wilderness and dramatic beauty is what makes Glacier National Park unlike anywhere else in the country. Now that you know where Glacier National Park is and why it's so special, let's get in the truck and look at one of the most famous adventures that draws millions of visitors every year, and later we'll get into the establishment of Glacier National Park. What is the Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? The Going to the Sun Road is Glacier's most famous attraction, and for good reason. This 50-mile scenic highway climbs over 6,600 feet to cross the Continental Divide at Logan Pass. Along the way, you'll pass waterfalls, wildflower meadows, jagged cliffs, and sweeping views that will stop you in your tracks. But you may also see bighorn sheep like we did. Built in the 1930s, it's considered an engineering marvel, carved right into the mountainsides, with stone guardrails and tunnels that make the drive unforgettable. It's only open in summer because of heavy snow, so if this road is on your bucket list, plan your vacation between late June and September. Many visitors say you haven't truly experienced Glacier National Park until you've white-knuckled the Going to the Sun Road. Of course, the road is just one way to see Glacier National Park, but for many people, it's the chance to spot wildlife in their natural habitat that makes the trip unforgettable. So before we learn more history, let's hike to Hidden Lake and ask, what wildlife can I see in Glacier National Park? Glacier is a wildlife paradise. It's one of the few places in the lower 48 where all of the large native mammals still roam. Yes, even bison are being reintroduced into the region. But during our time in Glacier National Park, we saw grizzly bears and black bears wandering meadows, moose feeding in lakes, and bighorn sheep and mountain goats navigating steep cliffs. But did you know Glacier National Park is one of the best places in the world to see mountain goats? They're even the park's official symbol. Elk, mule deer, and lynx also live here, and birdwatchers can spot bald eagles, harlequin ducks, and even the elusive peregrine falcon. Because the ecosystem is so intact, wildlife thrives here in a way that feels truly wild. The wildlife is thriving here for a reason. Did you know this land has been preserved for over a century? Let's talk more about this while hiking to Avalanche Lake, and later we'll discuss a little-known nickname with a big meaning. When was Glacier National Park established? Glacier was established as a national park in 1910 by President William Howard Taft, making it the 10th national park in the United States. Its creation was part of the early conservation movement, led by people like George Bird Grinnell, who spent decades fighting to protect the area from mining and logging. At the time, the park was home to more than 100 glaciers, and it quickly became known as a wilderness wonderland. Over 100 years later, Glacier National Park still serves the same purpose, preserving one of the last great wild landscapes of North America for everyone to enjoy. Of course, the park isn't just about history. It's still living up to its name today, as you'll discover while we hike the Grinnell Glacier Trail. Are there really glaciers in Glacier National Park? Yes, there's still glaciers in Glacier National Park, though far fewer than when the park was created. In 1850, there were about 150 glaciers. By 1910, when the park was established, more than 100 remained. Today, fewer than 25 active glaciers are left, and most are much smaller than they used to be. Some of the most famous ones you can still see, including Grinnell, Sperry, and Jackson glaciers. These glaciers aren't just ice. They shape the land, feed rivers, and create those turquoise blue lakes Glacier is famous for. Seeing a glacier in person is both beautiful and humbling. You're looking at a living remnant of the Ice Age, but also at something that's disappearing before our eyes. We'll get back to the list in a second, but are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our hiking adventures in this way to help you plan your first trip and learn more. Subscribe today, so the next time you search one of the places we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the list, and while we hike Highline Trail, who lived in Glacier National Park before it became a park? For thousands of years, indigenous peoples lived in and traveled through the lands that are now Glacier National Park. The Blackfeet, Salish, Kootenai, and Pendo Oriole tribes all have deep cultural, spiritual connections to this land. I hope I pronounced them right. To the Blackfeet Nation, which still borders the park on the east, these mountains are sacred and feature heavily in their stories and traditions. When you visit Glacier today, you're not just exploring beautiful landscapes. You're walking through lands that hold immense cultural meaning. Knowing this history adds a layer of respect and appreciation for the park and its first peoples. Every good national park video needs a dad joke. Since we love these views, did you know your pupils are the last part to stop working when you die? They dilate. Okay, later we'll talk about why Glacier National Park became a destination, but let's continue on Highline Trail and discuss, why is it called the Crown of the Continent? The nickname Crown of the Continent was popularized by conservationist George Bird Grinnell in the early 1900s. He saw Glacier as the jewel of the Rockies because of its dramatic peaks and unmatched beauty. But the name also has a geographic meaning. The park straddles the Continental Divide, where rivers flow in 3 different directions: to the Pacific, the Atlantic via the Gulf of Mexico, and north to the Hudson Bay. Very few places on Earth can claim that distinction. Standing at Logan Pass, you're literally standing at the top of the continent, where the waters decide which ocean they'll eventually reach. Before we continue, if you're planning your first trip, check out our video description now while you watch for the guidebook we use to plan our trips and reference during our time in the park. What role did the Great Northern Railway play in Glacier National Park's history? The Great Northern Railway was crucial to Glacier's early history. The railroad company lobbied for the park's creation, then built a network of Grand Lodges and backcountry chalets to bring visitors from all over the country. Their marketing campaign called Glacier America's Switzerland, promising alpine adventures without crossing the Atlantic. Many of these historic lodges, like the Mini Glacier Hotel built in 1915 and Lake McDonald Lodge built in 1913, are still standing today. Staying in them feels like stepping back in time, surrounded by rustic architecture and sweeping mountain views. But did you know Amtrak still has a station at the West Glacier entrance? Without the railway, Glacier might never have become the world-renowned destination it is today. It seems appropriate to hike to Iceberg Lake for these next two questions. Why do people fall in love with Glacier National Park? People fall in love with Glacier because it feels like stepping into another world. It's not just the scenery, though the towering peaks, wildflower meadows, and turquoise lakes are unforgettable. But the wildflowers were one of our biggest surprises. Still, it's the sense of wilderness, of standing in a place that feels raw and untouched. Hikers talk about the sound of silence on a high trail, except when my brood is nearby. The thrill of spotting a grizzly in the distance, or watching the Milky Way blaze across a dark night sky. But for many, Glacier National Park feels like a reminder of what the world looked like before it was developed. Wild, pure, and awe-inspiring. That feeling is why so many people return again and again. What do you like about Glacier National Park? Join the conversation and comment while we answer this question. How has climate change shaped Glacier National Park's history? Climate change has had a dramatic impact on Glacier. Myth or real, when the park was created, it had over 100 glaciers, but now fewer than 25 remain, and they're shrinking every year. Scientists estimate that most of them could disappear within the next few decades. But it's not just about ice. Melting glaciers change the entire ecosystem. From the flow of rivers to the habitat of cold water fish, this makes visiting Glacier today even more meaningful. You're not just seeing stunning landscapes, you're witnessing history in real time. A landscape that is changing before our eyes. For many visitors, that adds a sense of urgency and appreciation. This is a chance to experience something that may not look the same in another generation. We've hiked a lot of waterfalls across the country, but St. Mary and Virginia Falls stand out, not just for their beauty, but for their challenges. After this hike, we'll talk about some of Glacier's real dangers and how to avoid them. This might be Glacier National Park's most popular waterfall hike, but what you don't know about St. Mary and Virginia Falls could make this hike memorable for the wrong reasons. Come on a hike with us to discover 13 things you should know about the St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail to plan your epic waterfall adventure. Let's get started. Glacier is packed with adventure, so the first question you may ask as we begin the trail might be, is the hike to St. Mary and Virginia Falls and Glacier National Park worth it? The hike to St. Mary and Virginia Falls is one of the park's most accessible and rewarding trails, offering a relatively easy walk with a big scenic payoff. In just a few miles round trip, you'll get to experience not one, but two stunning waterfalls, each with its own character. St. Mary Falls is a beautiful turquoise cascade framed by rock walls and forest, while Virginia Falls is taller and more dramatic, often throwing off cool mist that feels great on a hot summer day. Along the way, the trail winds through recovering forest land that was affected by wildfire in past years, which we will detail later, offering a unique look at how the landscape regenerates. Wildflowers bloom along the path in midsummer, and wildlife sightings are possible, including birds, deer, and even the occasional bear. But did you know many times on the trail you can see Virginia Falls in the distance? Because it's popular, the trail is well maintained and easy to follow, making it a great choice for families and beginner hikers. Now that you've made the decision to explore the trail, we'll discuss the difficulty, and later we'll tell you whether to bring your swimsuit. Is the trail to St. Mary and Virginia Falls and Glacier National Park easy? While there are some uphill sections and rocky stretches, especially as you approach Virginia Falls, the trail has little elevation gain and is well maintained. If you can comfortably walk a few miles, this hike is a fantastic way to experience the beauty of Glacier without tackling more strenuous terrain. The trail is considered easy to moderate, making it accessible to most hikers, including families with kids or older adults. As you can see the trail, you might be wondering, was there a wildfire near St. Mary and Virginia Falls? There was a notable wildfire near the St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail area back in 2015. The Reynolds Creek Fire burned approximately 4,000 to 5,000 acres on the east side of Glacier National Park, about 4 miles west of the St. Mary Visitor Center. The flames destroyed the historic Sun Camp Fire Guard cabin and prompted evacuations and trail closures in the St. Mary Valley area. Though the trail to St. Mary Falls and Virginia Falls winds through woodland areas that are recovering, you can still see many dead trees the fire left behind. To make it easier, we'll share what gear to take with you next, and follow that up with trail length. But stay until later to learn the hidden deadly danger on the trail. What gear should you take to hike St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail? Even though the St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail is relatively short and considered easy to moderate, having the right gear will make your hike more comfortable and safe. Start with a pair of sturdy hiking shoes or trail runners, as the trail can be rocky, muddy, and slippery near the waterfalls. If you have any balance issues or need a little extra support, consider trekking poles. Since you're in bear country, it's essential to carry bear spray and keep it easily accessible, but you likely won't need it. Bring plenty of water on warmer days when the trail can get hot in exposed areas. A lightweight rain jacket or wind chill is a smart addition since Glacier's weather can change quickly and you don't want to be caught in a sudden shower unprepared. Sun protection is also important, so pack sunglasses, sunscreen, and a hat, as most of the trail offers little shade. A small day pack will help you carry everything comfortably, but make sure it has a hydration bladder to make drinking on the go easier. Bug spray is another useful item. Mosquitoes are often present near the water in summer. Don't forget your smartphone or camera to capture the beautiful scenery, and be sure to download an offline trail map or use a hiking app. Bring a compass and flashlight just in case. If you need suggestions, read the video description now while you watch for examples of the gear our brood hiked with in Glacier National Park. We'll discuss parking next, but most people like to know, how long is the hike to St. Mary and Virginia Falls in Glacier National Park? The hike to Virginia Falls is about 3 miles round trip if you start at the St. Mary Falls shuttle stop, or closer to 3.5 miles if you begin at the Sun Point parking area. It's an out and back trail, and many people choose to stop at St. Mary Falls before continuing the extra 0.8 miles to Virginia Falls. For some reason, the hike from St. Mary to Virginia Falls seemed a lot longer for us. But the stunning waterfall views and moderate elevation gain make it a favorite among families and casual hikers. We'll show Virginia Falls closer to the end of this video so that you know why you are making the hike up from St. Mary Falls. Can you swim at the falls will come a bit later, but now that we discussed the two trailheads, where do you park for St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail in Glacier National Park? Parking can be a challenge, especially in the peak summer months. There just isn't a lot of parking spots for this trail. The most common access points are the St. Mary Falls shuttle stop or the Sun Point parking area, where there are only 13 spots. But both stops are located along the Going to the Sun Road. If you're lucky enough to snap a spot at Sun Point early in the morning, you can turn the hike into a scenic out and back. Otherwise, the park shuttle system is a good alternative to avoid the stress of limited parking. You may have to drive by a few times or go early in the morning or late in the afternoon to find a place to park. A little trick that worked for us was to hang around in the early afternoon and grab a spot as another family pulled out. But let's continue with the parking lot and ask, are there bathrooms at the St. Mary and Virginia Falls trailhead in Glacier National Park? There are vault toilets available at the Sun Point parking area and the St. Mary Falls shuttle stop, but there are no restrooms along the trail itself. If you're starting from the shuttle stop, use the facilities there before beginning your hike. But we waited forever as there was a line and people just seemed to take a long time. Anyway, it's always a good idea to bring your own hand sanitizer and toilet paper just in case supplies are low, even though the Park Service did a nice job and kept things clean while we were visiting. Are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our trips in this way to help you plan your first trip. Subscribe today so that when you search a park we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Okay, let's get back to the list. And can you swim at St. Mary or Virginia Falls in Glacier National Park? It may be tempting to jump into the icy waters on a hot summer day, but swimming isn't recommended. The water flowing from the mountains is extremely cold, even in August, and currents near the falls can be deceptively strong. While it's safe to dip your feet in calmer sections of the creek below St. Mary Falls, be cautious and always prioritize safety near fast-moving water. But we did see and have heard of people jumping into the water below St. Mary Falls. When the water is flowing slow, this does seem like a reasonable risk for some fun. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. Since we are hiking waterfalls and sometimes see a rainbow, here you go. Where do rainbows go when they've been bad? To Prism, so they have time to reflect on what they've done. Okay, back to the list. And when is the best time to visit St. Mary and Virginia Falls in Glacier National Park? The trail typically becomes accessible once the Going to the Sun Road opens for the season, which is usually in late June or early July, depending on snowpack and weather conditions. Snow can linger well into summer, so if you're visiting in early June, check current trail conditions with the National Park Service. The trail is generally open until the road closes again in the fall, usually sometime in mid-October. In the spring, the waterfalls will be in full force and a little more dangerous. Later in summer, the flow will lessen and you will have a calmer experience. Later into the fall, you may end up in snowstorms that close Going to the Sun Road. Which leads us to our next question. Do people die on St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail in Glacier National Park? While deaths on the St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail are very rare, it's important to remember that Glacier National Park is still a wild and rugged environment where accidents can happen. This trail is considered one of the park's safer and more family-friendly hikes, but hikers should still be cautious. Wildlife encounters, including bears, are possible, but less common on such a popular trail. Most serious incidents tend to result from risky behavior, such as climbing on the rocks, ignoring safety signs, or hiking unprepared. But last year, a 26-year-old woman died when she slipped and fell into the river. Yes, the biggest risks typically come from slipping on wet rocks near the waterfalls, especially when people try to get too close for a photo. The water, though beautiful, is extremely cold and fast-moving, especially early in the season, making it dangerous for anyone who falls in. Overall, the trail is very safe when hikers use common sense and stay aware of their surroundings. Towards the end of this video, we'll tell you which waterfall is better, but for now, you may be wondering, is the St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail in Glacier National Park crowded? This is one of the most popular hikes on Glacier's east side due to its easy access and stunning views. To avoid the crowds, try hitting the trail early in the morning or later in the evening. Using the park shuttle can also help you avoid the frustration of full parking lots. Yes, it can be quite crowded, especially between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. in July and August. But if you get a parking spot, consider yourself one of the lucky ones, because once you're on the trail, you will have some traffic, but it's limited by the parking and shuttles. How do you plan to beat the crowds in Glacier National Park? Join the conversation today and let us know in the comments. When we discussed the trailheads, we didn't answer. Is it better to start at Sun Point or the shuttle stop to hike St. Mary and Virginia Falls Trail? Both trailheads are good options, and your choice may depend on shuttle availability and parking. Starting at Sun Point offers a slightly shorter route and gives you the bonus of seeing St. Mary Lake views early in the hike. The St. Mary Falls shuttle stop is a bit further, but takes you directly to the burnt forest section. Some hikers do a one-way hike using the shuttle, starting at one trailhead and ending at the other. We like the longer hike and started at the parking lot. This gave us more views of St. Mary Lake and just a cool hike through the wildfire landscape. Which waterfall is better, St. Mary or Virginia Falls in Glacier National Park? Both waterfalls are beautiful, but many hikers agree that Virginia Falls is the more dramatic and rewarding destination. Mary Falls is a smaller cascade set in a wooded area and makes for a lovely stop along the way. But if you're up for the short climb beyond St. Mary Falls, Virginia Falls is a tall, roaring waterfall that plunges down a cliff face. Surrounded by mist and wildflowers in the summer, it's well worth the extra effort. Glacier isn't without risk, and some of those dangers catch visitors off guard. Let's go over the biggest ones, then we'll head above the clouds for one of the most unforgettable hikes in the park. About 3 million people visit Glacier National Park every year, but not everyone makes it home safe. Come on an adventure with us on some of our favorite Glacier National Park hikes to discover 9 of the most common ways people die in Glacier National Park. Let's get started by asking this question. Is Highline Trail in Glacier National Park dangerous? Glacier National Park is part of some of the most wild country in the United States, and Highline Trail is one of the most iconic hikes in Glacier National Park. But it's also one of the most dangerous. It starts right across from Logan Pass and quickly wraps along a narrow ledge carved into a cliff, with nothing but a cable and 3 feet of trail between you and a drop of hundreds of feet down to going to the Sun Road. The trail is breathtaking, but people have died here and on other dangerous trails in Glacier National Park. In 2013, a 64-year-old man lost his life after he slipped about a mile west of Logan Pass. The fall caused bodily trauma that he did not recover from, even though there were attempts to revive him. What makes these falls so tragic is that they're usually avoidable accidents. Weather can cause difficult terrain that is challenging to hike, but the trail can be narrow and crowded, especially in peak season, and hikers often feel pressure to move aside or rush forward. But you are always safer staying planted and letting others pass when it's wide enough. If you're uncomfortable with heights or hiking with kids, consider hiking on a better weather day or choose another trail in the park. Coming up later, we'll talk about bears, but the most popular way to die is via water. Let's move onto Iceberg Lake Trail, and people often ask, can you swim in Glacier National Park's lakes? Swimming in Glacier National Park is a popular adventure for many, but you need to know what you're getting into. These waters are glacier-fed and dangerously cold even in July. But many people strip down to their swimsuit to get their social post at Grinnell Glacier or Iceberg Lake. But many people swim in Lake McDonald just to relax and enjoy a hot summer day. In 2024, a 28-year-old man went swimming with friends on a Saturday evening. He was near the Sprague Creek campground, when he began to struggle about 30 yards from shore. He went underwater and never resurfaced. Even strong swimmers can lose the ability to move their limbs in glacial water this cold. And because many lakes have steep drop-offs where one step you may be able to feel the bottom and the next step could be trouble. If you plan to enjoy the water, keep it safe, wade near the shore, avoid jumping or diving, and never swim alone. Consider wearing a life jacket, but better yet, take a boat tour or rent a kayak to enjoy the scenery without the risk. Is Glacier National Park safe for seniors or people with health issues? Glacier National Park can be an incredible destination for people of all ages, but the combination of high elevation, rugged terrain, and limited medical access can be dangerous for those with underlying health conditions. Heart attacks are the #2 cause of death in Glacier National Park. In 2014, a 67-year-old man suffered a heart attack and died while hiking near St. Mary Falls. He was with his wife on a ranger-led guided tour. CPR was initiated by the ranger and other hikers, but he was declared dead at the scene. The next day, a 75-year-old male hiking Iceberg Ptarmigan Trail also died of a heart attack. This kind of tragedy underscores the importance of knowing your limits and preparing accordingly. If you or someone in your group has a heart condition or limited mobility, stick to lower elevation hikes like Trail of the Cedars or boardwalk paths near Apgar. But carrying your own AED weighing only 2 to 7 pounds with family or friends that know how to use it could also be a good strategy. At a minimum, always carry plenty of water, rest often, and check with your doctor before attempting anything strenuous. Are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of the national parks we've been to in this way. Subscribe today so the next time you research Glacier or plan your next trip, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Okay, coming up later we'll discuss going to the Sun Road, but let's move on to the Grinnell Glacier Trail and ask, do I need warm gear even in the summer? It might be 85 degrees in the parking lot, but a few miles in, especially above the tree line, you could be dealing with wind, rain, or even snow. In 2023, a college student went hiking in tennis shoes and shorts. He told his family that the weather was beautiful before the hike. But about 4 miles in, he encountered snow, got stuck, and lost his shoes while freeing his legs from the snowpack. He tried everything he could to escape the conditions, but was unable to return back to his vehicle and civilization. He decided to build a shelter and wait. 3 days went by until luckily search and rescue saved him using helicopters and thermal imaging. But many are not so fortunate. Still, the man became hypothermic and frostbitten and incurred a long recovery in the hospital. Hypothermia isn't just a winter danger. Wet clothes and wind can chill your core temperature fast, especially when your body is tired from hiking. Always dress for setbacks and pack layers, no matter the season. A waterproof jacket, insulating fleece, gloves, and even a beanie can make the difference between an uncomfortable hike and a life-threatening emergency. But you may also pack a lighter or matches, flashlight, rescue rope, and a first aid kit. We'll share our gear recommendations in the video description if you want ideas. Later we'll talk about death from above, but let's get in the car and ask our next question. Has anyone ever driven off going to the Sun Road? Going to the Sun Road is one of the most scenic drives in the world, but it's also narrow, winding, and lined with cliffs that drop thousands of feet with nothing but rock knee wall guardrails in many sections. It requires constant attention, as you can see here. But unfortunately, that's not always what it gets, or people are too scared to drive going to the Sun Road safely. In 2019, a car plummeted off the Going to the Sun Road to avoid a vehicle stopped around a blind corner to watch a bear. Search and rescue had to rappel down 40 feet to free the driver and passengers. But last year, a man died when he was involved in a rollover crash. The man was ejected from the vehicle and died due to head injury. Helicopters were unable to fly due to weather, and the man was pronounced dead at the hospital. It's a reminder that beauty can also be dangerous if you're not careful. But if you're not comfortable driving steep, narrow, busy roads, consider using the park shuttle system or booking a red bus tour. And no matter what, don't stop in the middle of the road for photos, but use the pull-offs instead. Are there avalanches in Glacier National Park? While avalanches are mostly a winter and spring risk, rockfall is a real danger during the summer. Glacier's rugged terrain is constantly shifting, especially in high elevation areas where freeze-thaw cycles loosen rocks. So why are we still driving going to the Sun Road? Well, in 2019, a family driving their car and going to the Sun Road were struck by a rock slide. The rocks were between 4 and 12 inches in size. The daughter was struck and killed by the rocks. Her parents and 2 other children sustained minor injuries. When you drive in Glacier, you'll see rocks next to the road, but summer hikers also face risks. Rockfall is common along the Highline Trail and the path to Ptarmigan Tunnel. In some areas, you'll see warning signs telling you to move quickly and avoid stopping under cliffs. The lesson? Never assume the trail is 100% safe just because it's open. Avoid hiking snowfields unless you're experienced, and don't linger in rockfall zones. Every good national park video needs a dad joke. If you are ever in the hospital, this is a good one to share. Why don't dogs operate MRI machines? Because cats scan. Okay, back to the list, and let's move on to Hidden Lake Overlook Trail and answer, how many fatal bear attacks have there been in Glacier National Park? Wildlife encounters are a big worry of visitors to the national parks, but in reality, the risk of death by animals are rare. About 10 people have died in Glacier National Park from bear, but bear are actually seen traveling across Hidden Lake Overlook Trail often. So they do happen, and they're almost always preventable. In 2024, a hiker on the Highline Trail was bitten on the leg and sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Her group used bear spray and called in first responders. They were able to hike out, and she was flown to a hospital. But it's not just bears. Moose, elk, bighorn sheep, and mountain goats can be just as dangerous if provoked or surprised. We saw a bear in the mini glacier area of the park and heard from others that a bear was chased by a bighorn sheep right across the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail. But the rule of thumb is to stay at least 100 yards away from bears and 25 yards from all other wildlife. Carry bear spray where it's accessible, not buried in your pack, and never try to get closer for a better photo because wildlife isn't part of a petting zoo. Buy a zoom lens instead. Moving on to St. Mary and Virginia Falls, can you get lost in Glacier National Park? Glacier has over 700 miles of trails, many of which lead deep into the wilderness. And once you leave the road, it's easy to lose your sense of direction, with many intersections like on this trail, and especially if the weather turns. In 2024, a 32-year-old man died after he decided to leave his party and hike alone. When he didn't return to his group at the rendezvous point, his friends called search and rescue. The man was later found dead. Even well-marked trails can be confusing at junctions or after dark. If you're hiking in Glacier, carry a paper map and a digital GPS and compass with offline maps on your phone. Tell someone where you're going and when you'll be back, and if something feels off, turn around. There's no shame in choosing safety. Let's move on to Avalanche Lake Trail to discover what is the #1 cause of death in Glacier National Park. Many would consider bears, falls, car accidents, or other ways to cause the most deaths. But the #1 way to die in Glacier National Park is drowning. But drowning in the lakes isn't the real risk. People usually die in Glacier National Park by getting too close to rivers and creeks. Every year, people die in Avalanche Creek hiking the trail or hiking near St. Mary and Virginia Falls. Surprisingly, these are two of the easiest and amazing hikes in the park. This year, 3 people fell into Avalanche Creek while taking photos. One person fell in. When the 2 others tried to rescue the first, they fell in too. When search and rescue arrived, they discovered 2 were swept away, but saved by other park visitors. But the third needed to be rescued as he was above the water, clinging to a tree inside the gorge. The weather lined up perfectly for this next hike, and the views were unreal. After this, we'll help you figure out how many days you actually need to explore Glacier National Park. People die on Highline Trail. Many people immediately think bears, but they're wrong. We invite you to come with us to hike Highline Trail from Logan's Pass to the Loop Trailhead to discover 11 essential questions you should ask to make your hike enjoyable and survive Highline Trail. Let's get started. Let's just come right out and say it. This hike isn't for everyone, but by the end of this video, you'll know whether you and your family, even your kids, will enjoy it. People die on Highline Trail with slips and trips. Jennifer Coleman fell and died hiking the Highline Trail up to Grinnell Glacier Overlook in 2021. Windy conditions may have been a factor, but fatigue and difficult terrain increase your risk of a fall too. So, while we start our walk and talk, or might I say hike and mic, many people ask, how difficult is a Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? The Highline Trail in Glacier National Park is considered difficult. There are a lot of ups and downs on this hike, but the trail descends over 2,000 feet if you start at Logan's Pass and is well maintained, making it accessible for hikers who are reasonably active. But the biggest challenge for many people is a narrow cliffside section early in the hike, where the trail hugs a rock wall with a steep drop-off, where if you'll fall, you'll bounce off going to the Sun Road far below. It was so tight, we decided not to film it to keep our hands free. But here's a picture. There's a sturdy cable bolted into the wall for extra support, but while this part can be intimidating, it's fairly short and manageable for most hikers once they're on it. But we saw one mom frozen on the cable while her daughter tried to help her get the courage to continue hiking. Those afraid of heights will find this section difficult to impossible. But if you can handle it and want to continue, we'll get into the distance and gear recommendations later to help you decide to hike it for sure. But you may be wondering why people even bother with this trail. So, why is Highline Trail in Glacier National Park so special? As you can see, the Highline Trail is considered one of the best hikes in Glacier National Park because of the sheer variety and beauty packed into a single experience. From the moment you step onto the trail, you're surrounded by breathtaking views of glacier-carved valleys, towering mountains, and endless fields and wildflowers. But what might be more dramatic is the wildlife. We saw fresh bear scat, but more fun were mule deer playing in and out of the pine trees, and the bighorn sheep high up along the Continental Divide, often called the Garden Wall. As you descend from the Granite Park Chalet, you may get lucky like us and witness many mule deer grazing within arm's length off the trail. But even without wildlife, the Highline Trail offers panoramic vistas that stretch for miles in every direction for you to enjoy. Now that you know why this trail is worth it, let's get into details while we hike from beginning to end to help you plan for your successful hike. What is the best way to hike Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? There are 3 ways to hike Highline Trail in Glacier National Park and good reasons why you might choose each one. We hike the trail from Logan's Pass to the Loop Trailhead. For those hiking the whole trail, you'll discover a trail that descends. Logan's Pass starts at over 6,600 feet above sea level, and the trail ends at the Loop, 2,200 feet lower. For comparison, One World Trade Center in New York City, the tallest skyscraper in the United States, is only 1,792 feet tall. But you may want to hike from the Loop to Logan's Pass. See, the parking lot at Logan's Pass tends to fill up early. We'll discuss how early a little later, but if the lot is full, you will want to try to park at the Loop and hike the trail in the opposite direction. The hard part will be the hike to Granite Lodge, but after lunch or a little break, there the trail opens up and is a lot more enjoyable. But for those that aren't up for the full trail, you might be asking, can you turn around on the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? Highline Trail in Glacier National Park is 2-way. If you don't want to do the whole trail, you may want to start at Logan's Pass and hike out as far as you want and turn around and return to your car. We found it is better to plan a time rather than distance. If you feel like you want to hike 4 hours, plan on hiking out an hour and a half and turn around after a short break. We found the hike back up is slower than the hike down, but that means you have to hike the cliff twice. And on the way back to Logan's Pass, you'll be on the cliff side of the trail, not the side with the cable. Our brood have at least 1 or 2 with a fear of heights, and we were not going back and happy we decided early to hike the whole trail. So even if you want to turn back, you may want to plan to hike the whole 12 miles and pack enough water and food to do so. Because if you're like us, once you get through the cliff, you don't want to look back. Before we continue, are you liking this walk and talk or hike and mic format? Subscribe now so our videos show up when you search your next national park adventure. Now, if you want to hike the whole trail, you may be wondering, how do I get back to my car after hiking Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? After hiking the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park, most people finish at the Loop Trailhead, which is several miles down the road from where they started at Logan's Pass. To get back to your car, you'll typically need to use the free Glacier National Park shuttle system. The shuttles run along going to the Sun Road and connect major stops like Logan's Pass, the Loop, and the Apgar Visitor Center. Once you reach the Loop, you can catch a shuttle going uphill back to Logan Pass, where your car is parked. It's a pretty common routine for Highline hikers, but it's important to note that the shuttle system can get very crowded, especially midday and in the afternoon. With our brood, I chose to ride the shuttle back to Logan's Pass and then drive back to my family and pick them up. The shuttles are just too crowded for a family of 5 to get a seat. Sometimes you might have to wait for a few shuttles before there's space for even one person to board. Starting your hike early in the morning can help beat the rush. If you use this option, plan on at least an hour to retrieve your car and get back. Another option is to set up a 2-car shuttle where you park one vehicle at the Loop and another at Logan Pass before you begin hiking. You could also drop your car at one lot, take the shuttle to the opposite trailhead, and then hike back to your car. But it's smart to check the Glacier National Park shuttle schedule ahead of time because operating hours and frequency can change depending on the month and weather conditions, and you don't want to rely on the shuttle only to find out it's not running. Check our video description while you watch for a link to the National Park Service shuttle page. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. What do you call a bighorn sheep who can sing and dance? A lady baba. This is terrible. What's your favorite dad joke? Join the conversation by sharing in the comments, and maybe we'll use your joke in a future video. We respond to questions too, so bring them on. Okay, we'll talk about how long the trail is a little later, but let's get back into the questions with, what gear should I use to hike Highline Trail? There's a lot you should consider when hiking Highline Trail in Glacier National Park. Most important gear choice is what you wear. For this long of a hike, good hiking shoes or boots are the most important. But you should also make sure you dress in layers. We started our morning in chilly weather and had to remove layers throughout the day. But storms could move in, or it could get windy, and you may need layers if the weather turns nasty. For this difficult trail, trekking poles are recommended, and make sure you wear a good hiking day pack with a water bladder. With this long of a hike added to the other 40 miles this trip, our shoulders got tired and good lightweight packs really helped. At this altitude, the sun can be brutal any time of year. Make sure you bring a hat, sunglasses, and wear sunscreen. We'll share what to pack for this hike in a minute, but you may question, is the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park worth it? Highline Trail is a challenging and beautiful adventure. The trail is very open, with little shade, meaning hikers need to be prepared for strong sun, sudden weather changes, and wind gusts. But the elevation peaks over 7,200 feet above sea level, which can make the effort feel harder even though it's not extremely steep. The Highline Trail requires a good level of fitness, comfort with heights, and preparation for variable mountain conditions. We enjoyed the clouds developing in front of us and sweeping away during our hike, but it was a little cold starting out in the fog. But with grand views, wildlife sightings, waterfalls, and wildflowers, you'll discover a magical elevated paradise. It's a challenge, but for most seasoned hikers, the experience is absolutely unforgettable. But you may also be asking, what should I pack when you hike Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? Highline Trail in Glacier National Park is well marked, but you may want to bring a GPS, compass, and map along with your phone. It's good to know how long you've hiked and how much of the hike is left to complete. But we also make sure we pack a first aid kit in case anyone gets injured. But even a blister can be protected with a band-aid, and the first aid kit may just save your hike. Due to the slopes along the trail, we also bring a rescue rope. If someone loses their footing and slides down the hill, a rescue rope could be what saves them quickly instead of risking others or waiting for search and rescue. Bring a flashlight in case you end up on the trail after dark. Pack plenty of food, including a meal, salty snacks, and sweet treats for little ones and adults alike. We saw fresh bear scat, and it reaffirms the need to carry bear spray. But more importantly, make sure you fill the water bladder in your day pack, and depending on the weather, add water bottles if it's going to be hot. We'll put examples of the gear we hiked with on the Highline Trail in our video description. Check it out now while you watch. So how long is the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? The Highline Trail from Logan Pass to the Loop covers about 11.6 miles and typically takes most hikers between 6 and 8 hours to complete, but plan on 8 hours or longer if you are slower or take a lot of pictures and breaks. The time can vary depending on your pace, how often you stop for photos, wildlife viewing, or rest breaks, and whether you decide to take the optional spur trail up to Grinnell Glacier Overlook, which adds extra mileage and a steep climb. Most of the hike follows a more advanced downhill trend after reaching Granite Park Chalet, but it's still a long day on your feet with significant exposure to the sun and changing mountain weather. It's important to start early in the day to allow yourself plenty of time to complete the hike without feeling rushed. We've talked a lot about the trail so far, but where is the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? Since this is your first time, it's important to give you clear directions. The Highline Trailhead at Logan's Pass starts across going to the Sun Road opposite the parking lot. We got to the parking lot before dawn at 6 a.m. in a fog that reduced our visibility to 0 while driving up to Logan's Pass. We watched the parking lot fill by 7 a.m. with those that arrived late clearly disappointed and desperate while we waited for the fog to clear. But here you can see the beauty when the fog would clear a little. You will walk through some small pines and then get right into it with the cliff wall. The end of the trail is a 7.8 mile drive down to going to the Sun Road at the Loop Trailhead, where there are about 30 parking spots. Granite Park Trailhead is here. That will connect the Highline Trail at the Granite Chalet. From St. Mary on the eastern edge to Logan's Pass is about 20 miles or 35 minutes. But from the more popular West Glacier, Logan's Pass is 32 miles and can take up to an hour depending on traffic and how fast you can navigate the twists and turns and tunnels. Can kids hike Highline Trail in Glacier National Park? When our brood hiked the Highline Trail, they were 15, 13, and 11. We hiked the full 11.6 miles and it was a day. As you can tell, all three are healthy and active, but they just got out of their soccer season and were in their best condition for hiking these trails. We've also been hiking for 7 years and they have the experience and mental toughness for these hikes. We're very happy that we waited this long for Glacier and the Highline Trail. You can take kids on Highline Trail, but it would be best to start at Logan's Pass and plan on turning around if they get tired. But that means you have to traverse the cliff wall twice. Older kids with experience, no problem. In fact, better than a lot of parents with a fear of heights. But younger kids that are less controlled and don't understand the risk of Highline Trail might not be right for this hike and the cliff section of the trail. We're about halfway through our ultimate guide, so let's pause and plan your trip. How many days do you really need in Glacier National Park? Then we'll take a short hike with huge rewards up to Hidden Lake. How many days do you really need in Glacier National Park? Come on a hike with us on some of the best trails in Glacier National Park, and by the end of this video, we'll share our recommendation and you'll know how many days you'll want for your trip to Glacier National Park. Let's get started. We like to work through our videos in a question and answer format, so let's start at the beginning and ask, what should I do if I only have one day in Glacier National Park? With just a single day, you need something that gives you the best of Glacier in one shot. Forests, waterfalls, wildlife, and those high alpine views the park is famous for. Start your day on the west side with Trail of the Cedars, an easy boardwalk loop through towering old-growth trees. From there, branch off onto the Avalanche Lake Trail, where a gradual climb leads you to a turquoise lake framed by waterfalls spilling off the cliffs above. After that, drive the Going to the Sun Road up to Logan Pass, the highest point on the road and the heart of Glacier National Park. Here, you'll take the short hike to Hidden Lake Overlook. It's just a mile and a half, but you're rewarded with sweeping views and often a mountain goat grazing in the meadow. Cap the day with a sunset on Lake McDonald, where the colorful rocks beneath the water glow in evening light. The best one-day itinerary is Trail of the Cedars, Avalanche Lake, Hidden Lake Overlook, and sunset on Lake McDonald. If you like 10-plus mile hikes, we've got this one and 2 more later, but if you're more into walks, we have those too. Is 2 days enough in Glacier National Park? If you hiked Hidden Lake Overlook on day 1, you've already had a taste of Logan Pass, but with a second day you can go further, much further. Instead of turning around at a short overlook, imagine walking an alpine ledge that stretches for miles with wildflowers at your feet and sheer cliffs dropping into the valley below. This is the Highline Trail, Glacier's most legendary hike. It runs from Logan Pass to Granite Chalet, returning to Going to the Sun Road at the loop via the Granite Park Trail. But along the way, you'll pass the Garden Wall, where if you can make it a short but steep side trail, takes you to Grinnell Glacier Overlook for one of the most jaw-dropping views in the park. Most hikers finish at the loop and catch the park shuttle back up to Logan Pass. But it's a long day, so plan up to 16 miles depending on detours. The payoff is spending an entire day high in the alpine. The way to build on Trail of the Cedars and Avalanche Lake on day 1 is to tackle the Highline Trail from Logan Pass to the loop. This will give you the best 2 days of exposure to Glacier National Park. Before we continue with day 3, let's answer. Can I just drive through Glacier National Park? If you're not into hiking, the 50-mile Going to the Sun Road is the adventure for you. You can drive your own passenger car or pickup truck, but you can also take a red bus tour or hop on the free Glacier National Park shuttle. But if your goal is to really experience Glacier National Park, the drive is just an appetizer. The park is packed with short trails, overlooks, and lakes that are only accessible if you stop and explore. Even just a few key stops like Avalanche Lake, Hidden Lake Overlook, St. Mary and Virginia Falls, and Jackson Glacier Viewpoint can turn a simple drive into an unforgettable adventure. So while yes, you can drive through some of Glacier National Park in a single day, the real experience comes when you get out of the car and hike some of the iconic trails, even if it's just the easy ones. We're just getting started, but are you enjoying this walk and talk style? We guide you through National Park step by step, so your next adventure is easier to plan and more fun to experience. Hit subscribe today so the next time you're searching for a park we've explored, our videos will be at the top of your search, ready to help you plan the perfect trip. Is 3 days enough for Glacier National Park? After 2 big days, it's time to mix things up and slow the pace a little. Glacier National Park isn't just about ridges and glaciers, it's also about waterfalls and wildlife. On the east side, the St. Mary area is perfect for this. Take the short trail to St. Mary Falls, where glacial blue water plunges over red rock. Then continue up a little further to Virginia Falls, a taller cascade surrounded by mist and wildflowers. If you haven't had enough of waterfalls, drive into Many Glacier Valley on the east side of the park. Here you'll hike the easy trail to Red Rock Falls, but before you get there, stop at Fisher Cap Lake. This small body of water is one of the best places in the park to see moose, especially early or late in the day. Day 3 balances out your trip as it's not as strenuous as the Highline Trail, but it adds waterfalls, wildlife, and a new side of the park that is different from Avalanche Lake, Trail of the Cedars, and Hidden Lake Overlook that you hiked on day 1. The best plan for day 3 is St. Mary and Virginia Falls, and Red Rock Falls with a moose stop at Fisher Cap Lake as you transition to the east side of the park. Before we continue with day 4, every good hiking video needs a dad joke. As we drive from the west side to the east side, Where do bees stop to use the bathroom on road trips? The BP station. Okay, back to the list, and another 10-miler for day 4. Can you do Glacier National Park in 4 days? By now you've seen lakes, waterfalls, and alpine overlooks with Going to the Sun Road, and 5 top 10 hikes like Avalanche Lake Trail and Trail of the Cedars. But nothing compares to standing at the foot of an actual glacier. That's what day 4 is all about. From Mini Glacier, you'll hike the Grinnell Glacier Trail, a full-day adventure that climbs steadily above turquoise lakes and through alpine meadows until you reach a basin where Grinnell Glacier still clings to the mountainside. But the trail is exposed, so bring sunscreen and plenty of water, and keep binoculars handy. Grizzlies are often spotted grazing on the slopes above. If the boat shuttles on Swift Current and Josephine Lakes are running, you can shave off about 3 miles. But either way, it's a challenging hike. Grinnell Glacier Trail and Glacier National Park combines everything you've seen so far, including waterfalls like St. Mary and Virginia Falls, alpine views like the Highline Trail, wildlife like Fisher Cap Lake, and adds a rare chance to stand eye to eye with a glacier. The big hike for day 4 is Grinnell Glacier Trail. We have more to go, but read our video description now while you watch for details and videos on all these hikes. But is Mini Glacier worth visiting in Glacier National Park? If you've already driven Going to the Sun Road, hiked the Highline, seen St. Mary and Virginia Falls and Hidden Lake, Avalanche Lake, and Lake McDonald, Mini Glacier will blow you away. To see panoramic views of Mini Glacier, hike Iceberg Lake Trail. Starting from the Swift Current Inn, the trail climbs gradually through forests and meadows with mountains rising on either side. Along the way, you might spot bears foraging in the berry patches, or other wildlife rustling in the underbrush. The payoff comes when you reach a massive alpine bowl where a turquoise lake sits beneath towering cliffs. Even in summer, chunks of ice float across the surface, giving the place a surreal beauty and its name. It's about a 9-mile round trip. Mini Glacier also includes Fisher Cap Lake and Red Rock Falls, and the Grinnell Glacier Trail that will make you long for a return to Mini Glacier. But how long does it take to go through Glacier National Park? You might think it's just a drive. How long could it take? But Glacier isn't just a park you pass through. It's a collection of winding mountain roads, dramatic overlooks, and must-see stops. If you don't want to hike, plan on one day to drive Going to the Sun Road and enjoy some panoramic views. But if you are up for a few 3 to 5 mile hikes, plan on 3 days where you can hike Hidden Lake, Overlook, Trail of the Cedars, Avalanche Lake, and St. Mary and Virginia Falls. But if you have the ability to hit some of the 10-mile hikes and can extend your trip, plan on up to 8 days to add Grinnell Glacier, Iceberg Lake, and Highline Trail. And fit in some recovery time to rest and slow down a little with a visit to Fisher Cap Lake, to see moose, and walk to Red Rock Falls. This next trail climbs high above Logan Pass, crossing the Continental Divide with incredible views. But after that, we'll play devil's advocate with a few reasons you might actually want to skip Glacier National Park. Want to discover a dream? Picture crystal clear water, towering mountains, and mountain goats posing like they're paid models. But before you hike Hidden Lake Overlook Trail and Glacier National Park, there are a few things you need to know. Come on a hike with us to discover answers to the 12 most asked questions about the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail you need to know for your first trip. Let's get started. Here's the first question you need to ask. Is Hidden Lake Overlook Trail and Glacier National Park worth it? The payoff at the Overlook is one of the most iconic views in all of Glacier National Park. Hidden Lake sparkles below Bear Hat Mountain, and with a clear sky, it's an unbeatable panorama of wild country. Did you know on the other side of Bear Hat Mountain is Avalanche Lake Trail? Anyway, here you're standing on the Continental Divide, surrounded by cliffs, peaks, and sky. Add in a passing mountain goat or swirling clouds, and you've got postcard perfection. But for some visitors, it's a letdown if the view is socked in by fog or hidden under snow. But for us and our hike, as you'll see later, the lake was framed in its full glory on a sunny day. The view is worth the hike, so coming up later, we'll talk about how that snow changes the entire hike, even weeks after summer has begun. But first, let's head to question 2, and how long is the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? Here's the catch. This hike starts at Logan Pass, which sits at over 6,600 feet in elevation. That thinner air can leave even recreational hikers short of breath, especially during the 460 feet of steady uphill gain. What feels like a quick walk on flat ground at home becomes a legit climb at altitude. The hike from Logan's Pass to Hidden Lake Overlook is 2.7 miles total out and back. We noticed that the trail just seemed to continue. We would hike to one rise in the mountain only to find another rise right behind it. This continues until you finally head through some pine trees and get your first view of the lake, which we'll show later. We'll discuss what wildlife you might see in a minute, but depending on when you go, parts of the trail might be hidden beneath snow or ice. So, is the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park easy? In August, when the snow has melted and the skies are clear, it's a moderately easy hike for most people. There's a mix of boardwalk, dirt path, and rocky sections, and the incline is steady but manageable. You'll stay motivated by the panoramic views and chance to see wildlife and melting snow. But in June, or even early July, you could be hiking on snowpack, slipping along icy ridges, or sinking into soft slush. Some years, you're walking over the boardwalk instead of on it. Without traction gear or proper footwear, that easy hike quickly becomes sketchy. But if it's raining, the hike may be more treacherous. It depends entirely on when you hike it. Speaking of gear, what gear should I take to hike Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? To hike Hidden Lake Overlook safely and comfortably, bring sturdy hiking shoes, water, sun protection, including hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen, and dress in layers for the weather conditions of the day. A small backpack is helpful for carrying layers and essentials, but isn't required unless you are hiking further past the overlook. If you're hiking in June or early July, be prepared for snow. This year, there was a winter storm warning on June 21st. Consider microspikes and trekking poles, which can make a big difference. Bear spray is essential year-round, as grizzlies are often active in the area. Also consider packing a small first aid kit, camera, or phone for photos. A map and compass are not needed because the trail is simple, and on clear days you can see the Logan's Pass parking lot for most of the hike. With the right gear, this short alpine hike becomes a much safer and more enjoyable experience. For examples of what we use to day hike Glacier National Park, read our video description now while you watch. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. Why do bears not like bear spray? They can't handle the spicy foods. Okay, we can't wait to show you what's next, but since we're talking about bears, will you see wildlife on the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? If you love wildlife, this trail delivers. Mountain goats are almost a guarantee, especially around the overlook and ridgelines. They're often so close, chances are you'll be startled by them while they keep watch over you. You might also spot bighorn sheep, marmots sunning on rocks, and other rodents. But the real wild card is the grizzly bear. Hidden Lake Basin is prime feeding ground, especially later in summer when fish spawn near the lake. It's not unusual for the trail past the overlook to close multiple times a week due to bear activity, like it did on the day we visited. But we also learned that bear will cross the overlook trail above Logan's Pass. One of the people we met in the park later in the week showed us a video of a bighorn sheep chasing a bear across the boardwalk trail through amazed hikers. Which brings up an important timing issue. When is this trail actually hikeable, and when is it hiding some serious surprises? This leads to, when is the best time to hike Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? Most recreational hikers will want to visit when the snow has melted, the wildflowers are blooming, and the trail is reliably clear. Earlier in the season, you're dealing with snowfields and questionable footing, but later into fall, you risk early storms, cold wind, and trail closures due to bears. Mid-July through early September is the golden window. That is when the snow has finally melted, at least most years. But even during the best weeks, this is one of the most popular hikes in the park, meaning crowds, lots of them. Hike it at sunrise or early evening for a quieter trail and dramatic light over Bear Hat Mountain. But there's a surprise thing that can keep you from hiking that we'll share at the end of the video, and it's something that catches travelers by surprise year after year. But if you have a brood like we do, you may be wondering, is the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park kid-friendly? The wildlife, wooden boardwalks, and big alpine views keep younger hikers engaged. The big advantage on this hike is that there are no cliffs or steep slopes to fall over. But you need to know your child's limits. The elevation can hit hard, snow can be slick, And once you're on the trail, there's no shortcut back. Some parents bring trekking poles or child carriers for younger kids, but always keep kids close so they don't wander ahead or behind on steep sections. But more importantly, wildlife can get a little too close for comfort, and you are better in a tight group. This trail is generally great for families, and many kids hike this trail and love it. We'll continue with more views and some planning questions in a minute, but are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our national park experiences in this way to help you plan your first trip. Subscribe today so that when you search your next adventure we've done, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Okay, what if you can't even access the road to Logan Pass? Do you need a permit or reservation to hike the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? From late May to early September, you need a vehicle reservation to drive going to the Sun Road during the day. That includes access to Logan Pass and this trail. These permits often sell out weeks in advance, but if you enter before the controlled time or if you have a paid tour or shuttle reservation, you can still get in. There's also a last-minute batch released the day before. But this trail is also a good quick hike to get in before sunset. If you don't have anything to do late one afternoon, you can drive Logan's Pass without a permit after the designated time and check this hike off your list. Once you've made it up Logan's Pass, the next thing you'll want to know is what's actually available at the trailhead and what you'd better bring yourself. Are there bathrooms or any facilities at the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? Even if you don't hike to Hidden Lake Overlook, the Logan's Pass Visitors Center has restrooms, a small store, and a water refill station. It's also where you'll find rangers posting up-to-date trail info, weather warnings, and wildlife alerts. But once you leave the parking lot, you're on your own. No bathrooms, no shelters, no trash cans. The trail is entirely exposed with no shade and zero protection from sudden weather. But what is the parking lot like at Logan's Pass? The parking lot has about 250 parking spaces for passenger vehicles and larger spots for shuttles and tours. But parking at Logan Pass fills up extremely early, often by 7 a.m. on summer mornings. So if you want a spot in the main lot, plan to arrive early to beat the crowds. Once it's full, finding a space becomes a game of chance if you are even allowed in the lot. Often rangers will set up barricades and not allow visitors to even look for a parking spot. Even here, in this picture from Google Maps, you will see vehicles circling the lot for a spot. Many visitors are left to park at lower altitude shuttle stops like Apgar or St. Mary Visitors Center and ride the free park shuttle up to Logan Pass instead. But you might wonder, is the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park open right now? Maybe not. You'd think once the Going to the Sun Road opens, the trail would too, but that's not always the case. Logan's Pass often opens in late June, but snow can linger on the trail into July, making it unsafe or impassable. So snow could keep the trail closed into early summer. But even if the snow is gone, wildlife closures, mainly due to bears, can happen at a moment's notice. The park posts updates online, but most visitors don't check. They drive all the way up expecting to hike, only to find a big trail closed sign. We'll put a link in our video description with MPS alerts you'll want to know about. Many people wonder, can you hike all the way to Hidden Lake on the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail in Glacier National Park? From the Overlook, a steeper, rougher trail continues another 1.2 miles down to the lake. It's a tough descent with a brutal return climb, and it often closes for wildlife safety. When open, it's spectacular. You get shoreline views, the chance to see fish spawning, and near total solitude. So yes, you can hike to Hidden Lake, but if you're not conditioned for the steep return, or if you don't have bear spray, it's better to enjoy the lake from above. If you're having second thoughts about Glacier National Park, you're not alone. Let's talk about some valid reasons you might want to skip it, and later we'll head out on an evening hike to look for moose and waterfalls. Next year is going to be the worst year to visit Glacier National Park. You need to watch this video before you plan your trip for 6 reasons why you will want to avoid Glacier National Park. Let's get started. Many of these happen every year, but stay until the end to understand why all of these could be worse next year. As we hike to the stunning Grinnell Glacier, let's talk about a topic that was on everybody's mind during our trip this summer. Is it common to see bears in Glacier National Park? Bear activity this year was a constant conversation during our trip. Hikes were closed, sightings were many, and a person was bitten this year on Highline Trail. The only reason he survived was that his group were well prepared with bear spray. They had a first aid kit, a satellite communication device, and didn't panic. Because of this, Highline Trail is currently closed. While we visited, Hidden Lake Overlook was closed after the Overlook,
due to bear activity. But bears and other wildlife don't care about your vacation plans. We saw a video of earlier in the day where a bighorn sheep chased a bear across the Hidden Lake Trail with people standing by frozen at what they were witnessing. We also spent time in Mini Glacier at Fisher Cap Lake, and bears were spotted on the Swift Current Pass Trail. And we saw bears on Route 3 near Mini Glacier Hotel while driving into the park. Bear encounters can lead to temporary and random closures in Glacier National Park to protect both visitors and wildlife. These closures typically happen when a bear is spotted near high-traffic areas, hiking trails, campgrounds, or other visitor locations. With over 600 grizzly bears and 300 black bears roaming Glacier National Park, next year could be even worse. So bears can be spotted anytime, and you need to decide whether you want to hike with bears in Glacier National Park. So, what should you do when you spot a bear? The first thing you should always do is talk to let the bear know you are there. Stay calm and remember that most bears do not want to attack you, but get your bear spray out and get set to use it. Yes, you need bear spray in Glacier National Park. Pick up small children to keep them safer and make yourself look as big as possible. Do not drop your backpack and move away slowly and sideways if you have an escape route. Do not run, but if the bear follows, stop and stand your ground, because it can be fun for them to chase you. Do not climb a tree and leave the area. To learn more from the National Park Service, check the link in our video description, and also for hiking gear we recommend for day hiking Glacier National Park. Don't go to Glacier National Park if you want to avoid crowds. We noticed a lot of people go to Logan's Pass if they are able to get a vehicle permit, which we will get to later. But many of them stop early and hike to Avalanche Lake. So you will want to ask, how busy are the trails in Glacier National Park? We're morning people. So we were in the park before sunrise and hiking by 7 a.m., like we did here to hike to Avalanche Lake. Most of the hikes were great on the way out. We were able to experience a lot of trails with one-way traffic, but there were still people hiking earlier than us that would cause opposing traffic before we turned around. But every hike except Highline Trail was out and back, so on the way back we always hit traffic. Avalanche Lake is extremely busy and this morning was no exception, but the trails are not wide enough for two-way traffic. Every step you take, there's someone right behind you or coming the other way. You're constantly dodging, stopping, and squeezing past hikers. But it's not just frustrating, it's dangerous. Many hikers are disrespectful and just barrel on through without regard for you or your brood. On narrow trails like Highline or Grinnell Glacier, one misstep and you're staring at a sheer drop. It's enough to keep you on edge the entire hike. Want to enjoy some solitude and nature? Good luck with that. Their behavior can ruin your hike and it is quite dangerous, as we'll discuss next. If you get on the trails after 8 or 9 a.m., you will discover two-way traffic your whole hike. So it's busy on the trails, but really, how busy is Glacier National Park? So Glacier National Park doesn't receive the same number of people as the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, or Yellowstone, but you need to understand why. Glacier National Park is accessed using Going to the Sun Road. Hidden Lake Overlook, which we are hiking here, is at Logan's Pass on Going to the Sun Road. It's the only road that cuts through the heart of the park, and it's so narrow and winding that it doesn't fully open until mid-summer because of snow. And when it does open, it's chaos. But depending on fall weather, it could close as soon as the first week of October. So if you're busy July, August, and September, you might as well skip Glacier National Park next year. About 3 million people visit Glacier National Park. That is about 35,000 people per day, and most of them end up on Going to the Sun Road, which is exactly where you want to go. But it's so busy that many people will sleep in their car at Logan's Pass just to get a parking spot. Glacier National Park has limited infrastructure. The parking lots are small for the number of people that attend, and most of the lots fill up by mid-morning. Picture this. We sat in the fog at Logan's Pass one morning, and you've been planning this trip for months, dreaming of that one perfect hike, only to find every parking spot at Logan's Pass taken by 7 a.m. As we waited for the fog to clear, this is exactly what we witnessed. We saw a steady flow of cars full of hikers who didn't get a parking spot. Talk about sad, knowing that for many of these people, that day may have been their only day to hike Highline Trail or Hidden Lake Overlook. Later in the day, the lot at Logan's Pass was prohibited by park rangers, so you couldn't even go look for a spot. You had to drive on by and miss Highline Trail and other hikes. So to limit visitors to the park during peak season and time of day, the Park Service installed a program that will make you skip Glacier next year if you don't plan ahead. Before we continue, every good hiking video needs a dad joke. What did the rock say to the glacier? Stop taking me for granted. Okay, back to the list. Let's spend some time on Going to the Sun Road next and discuss, do I need a permit to drive through Glacier National Park? You don't need one, but you'd better get one or plan on staying home during June, July, August, and at least the first week of September. If you don't have a permit, you need to enter the park before 6 a.m. or after 3 p.m. But unless you are an early riser, everyone else without a vehicle permit will be driving into the park at 3 p.m., and the parking lots are already full because those with permits are still in the park. Permits are required for going to the Sun Road, North Fork, and Mini Glacier. But the permit just gets you into the park. You still have to navigate a busy going to the Sun Road where people show off their terrible driving skills. People will drive over the yellow line because they don't want to hit the mountain, or they'll crowd the yellow line because they don't want to fall off the mountain. It's crazy. But if this still interests you, how quickly do going to the Sun Road tickets sell out? We went to Glacier in July, and the permits are sold for each day on recreation.gov 120 days before the permit date. So we were on recreation.gov at the end of March by 9:55 a.m. Eastern with multiple devices to get vehicle permits for going to the Sun Road and Mini Glacier. But if you are past that 120 day, you might as well cancel your trip. We found a website that says they sell out in 30 minutes. That's wrong. They sell out in about 1 to 5 minutes. Let's just say it's easier getting Taylor Swift tickets. But vehicle permits are a lot cheaper. Glacier also issues a few more permits the night before, but you have to be on good internet, which is lacking around the park. We'll discuss the leading cause of death in Glacier next and follow that up with a great reason to stay home. But are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of the national parks we've been to in this way to give you as much as we can for you to plan your trip. Subscribe today for our other videos on Glacier, and when you search for a park we've been to, we'll show up at the top of your search results. Okay, let's get back to the next question while we hike to St. Mary's in Virginia Falls. What are the leading causes of death in Glacier National Park? You may want to skip Glacier National Park next year so you don't die. About 300 people have died in Glacier National Park since 1910. These deaths happen in many different ways, and each one affects family and friends forever. Earlier in the year, a woman was swept into Virginia Creek, and her body was swept over the waterfalls. Another visitor went into Avalanche Creek and was swept away to his death while hiking Avalanche Lake Trail. On the same day, a man went swimming in Lake McDonald. He went underwater and never resurfaced. But even on going to the Sun Road, a man died in a vehicle rollover crash. Hiking accidents occur too. There are many steep drop-offs along the trail. Any slip or trip, and you could be careening over the edge. Kids should be supervised at all times in these areas, but did you think the leading cause of death was bear attacks or mountain lions? It's not. The leading cause of death is actually water, similar to the examples above. What do you think? Are the bears, the crowds, the permit madness, and the unpredictable closures worth it? Let us know why or why not in the comments below. Join the conversation while you watch. Let's move on to Iceberg Lake and Mini Glacier to answer, what are other reasons areas of Glacier National Park are closed? The park closes for other reasons, and next year may be worth skipping. Weather-related closures occur often. Snowfall will close going to the Sun Road and Logan's Pass, but most of the Mini Glacier area closed for construction. The park needs constant maintenance, and significant projects will close portions of the park. The Swift Current area closed for improvements to water systems, pedestrian safety, road and parking improvements. The construction prevents people from driving to many great hikes, including Iceberg Lake, Ptarmigan Tunnel, and Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls. These closures cut off a large, popular part of Glacier National Park that includes the best place to see moose. Imagine driving all the way to Glacier only to find out that your favorite hikes are closed. But with construction in full swing and bear activity on the rise, you might want to skip Glacier altogether. Without these trails, other areas of the park are going to be overrun by visitors. It will be almost impossible to hike Grinnell Glacier.
Now that you're more prepared for what Glacier National Park can throw at you, let's unwind with an evening hike to Red Rock Falls. And after that, we'll show you one of our favorite campgrounds on the west side. Come on a hike with us to discover whether you should visit Fisher Cap Lake and Red Rock Falls in Glacier National Park. While we hike Swift Current Pass, we'll share the answers to 11 questions you need to ask before committing to Red Rock Falls and Fisher Cap Lake. Let's get started. With such a big park, you will want to ask, is Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park worth the hike? Some waterfalls take hours to reach and leave you wondering if the payoff was worth it. Red Rock Falls is a shorter hike in the Mini Glacier section of Glacier National Park, but the view opens up to a peaceful series of red rock cascades framed by alpine peaks. It's scenic, relaxing, and low effort. The out and back trail, as we'll discuss throughout this video, is ideal for families, casual hikers, or anyone that wants to enjoy Glacier National Park without the climb. What really makes this hike special is the variety of scenery you pass through, including quiet forest, open meadows, 2 scenic lakes, and of course the peaceful cascade of Red Rock Falls itself. Whether you're short on time or just want a gentle trail with great views and a chance for wildlife sightings, Red Rock Falls is an easy recommendation. Swift Current Trail is a hike that delivers much more than you expect for the time and energy it takes. Honestly, we had a bit of time one evening and just made the trip to Swift Current and started hiking without much planning. But we made mistakes, so continue learning for the things we wish we knew. You want all the details, so we will discuss where to find moose later, but first, when is the best time of day to hike Fisher Cap Lake and see wildlife? The lighting is softer, the trail is quieter, and the wildlife is just starting to move during early morning when the park comes alive along Swift Current Pass Trail. Moose especially like the early hours, and you're more likely to have the lake and waterfalls to yourself. Evening hikes, which is when we hike the trail, are a close second. The Fisher Cap Lake is full of casual hikers walking to the water for a quick view of remaining daylight and photos of the landscape. But once you pass the first lake on this trail, you are by yourself in the evening. But July, August, and early September are the best months. We hiked in early August and the flowers were blooming and everything was green. Now that we have been hiking a bit, you may be wondering, how long is the Fisher Cap Lake to Red Rock Falls hike in Glacier National Park? A lot of people hear Mini Glacier and expect long, intense backcountry hikes, but this one is surprisingly mellow. The trail leads through forest, across small creeks, and along a valley floor with beautiful mountain views as you see here. You'll pass Fisher Cap and Red Rock Lakes and end at the scenic waterfall, all without breaking a sweat. The full out and back trail to Red Rock Falls is about 4.2 miles from the Swift Current trailhead and in round trip. Later we will let you know whether you'll see bears on the trail, but first, how much time should I plan for hiking Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park? This depends on how you like to hike. If you power through the trail with a mission, you might be back at the car in about an hour. But if you're someone who wants to stop at the lake, maybe wait for a moose, grab some photos at the falls, or enjoy a quiet snack, it's going to take longer. If you just want to hang out at Fisher Cap Lake, you can experience the water in about 30 minutes. But most visitors will want to plan on spending around 1.5 to 2 hours total to fully enjoy the hike and waterfall experience without rushing it. We have a lot more to go, but we'd like to know, are you going to Glacier for easy hikes like this one? Or are you planning to hike the 12-mile journeys to Grinnell Glacier, Iceberg Lake, and more? Join the conversation and let us know today. All right, we'll get back to logistics in a minute, but you need to know, are there bears on the Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park? Glacier is one of the most active grizzly bear regions in the country. This trail runs through a classic river corridor, which is a perfect habitat for both grizzlies and black bears, but you won't always see them even if the signs are usually there. Berry bushes, bear scat, and the occasional ranger warning. Hikers should be alert, prepared, and respectful of the animal space. But yes, to be clear, bears are common in this area. Which leads to the next question. Do I need bear spray on the Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park? It's tempting to think that a short, easy hike won't require serious gear. But Glacier doesn't play by those rules. Bears are known to move through this area frequently, even right near the trailhead. Most hikers will never see one, but it's not worth the risk. So while the trail may feel tame, you should absolutely carry bear spray and know how to use it. But if this isn't enough to convince you we were on the Swift Current Trail eating ice cream, which probably wasn't the best idea, from the Swift Current Inn and learned that bears were sighted ahead. So we ate the ice cream as fast as we could and rinsed our cups in Wilbur Creek before moving on with our hike. The bears had moved on, but left an impression with many hikers that day. Before we continue, are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our national park experiences in this way to help you plan your first trip. Subscribe today so that when you search your next adventure we've done, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Before we discuss permits, you may want to know, where does the Swift Current Trail start in Glacier National Park? It can be tricky figuring out trailhead logistics in a big park like Glacier, especially with the park broken up into sections. You'll want to head to the Mini Glacier area and specifically to the Swift Current Motor Inn. Parking can be difficult, but once you find a spot, head to the front of the inn. From there, start walking to the left and find the trail sign near the west end of the parking lot. Once at the trailhead, it's just a few minutes to Fisher Cap Lake and the beginning of your hike. But if you look around there for very long, it seems like there are 4 different ways to start the hike. Just pick one and head west. If you go north or south, head west when you can, and you'll end up in the right direction, unless you find yourself on the Iceberg Lake Trail. We'll discuss where to find moose in a minute, but Do I need a permit or reservation to hike Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park? Glacier National Park has been evolving its vehicle entry system over the past few years, and Mini Glacier is part of that. While you don't need any kind of backcountry hiking permit for this particular trail, you may need a vehicle reservation just to access the area depending on the time of year. In the summer busy season, Mini Glacier vehicle permits are offered on the National Park Service website. You will need a permit unless you are staying at the hotel or camping in Mini Glacier. So generally, you'll need a vehicle reservation for Mini Glacier during peak summer dates to get to the trailhead. To learn more, read our video description for the NPS website on permits. What are the chances of seeing a moose on Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park? If you've seen moose from Glacier online, chances are they were taken here. But you need to know exactly where because we walked 2 miles further than we needed to. Fisher Cap Lake is moose paradise. The shallow, calm waters and surrounding landscape is great moose habitat. They often wade into Fisher Cap Lake in the early morning or late evening to feed on aquatic plants. There must be an underwater salad because we saw moose feeding every time we walked by the lake. It's not guaranteed, but many hikers do spot one. So if you're hoping for that perfect wildlife moment, Fisher Cap Lake is one of the best places in the park to see moose. To get there, look for this tree and then turn left. We walked right past it the first time and trudged on to Red Rock Falls, not knowing Fisher Cap Lake was so close. Thankfully, we got directions from other hikers and the moose were still feeding when we returned. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. Since we missed it the first time, what did the moose say when hikers walked right past Fisher Cap Lake? You moosed it. Okay, let's get back to the list. And are you wondering, is the Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park good for beginners or older hikers? Most trails in Glacier National Park are not beginner friendly. Some gain thousands of feet and involve scrambling over rocks or hugging steep ledges. But the Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls is a refreshing exception. It's well maintained, has gentle elevation adjustments, and offers beautiful views without much physical strain. If you've got bad knees, are recovering from a longer hike, have young hikers, or just want something relaxing, this section of Swift Current Trail is for you and your brood. Now that you are getting excited to hike the trail, what gear should I take to hike Swift Current Pass to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park? To hike from Swift Current Pass Trailhead to Red Rock Falls and Glacier National Park, you won't need a full alpine setup, but bringing the right gear will make a big difference in your comfort and safety. Start with a good pair of hiking shoes or trail runners. While the trail is relatively flat, there are uneven and sometimes muddy sections, especially after rain. Carry at least 1 liter of water per person and pack snacks to eat along the way or while viewing the falls or lakes. A small day pack is helpful for storing layers, as the weather in Mini Glacier can change quickly. Bring a lightweight rain jacket or windbreaker, especially in the shoulder seasons. Bear spray is essential as the trail passes through active bear territory, and sightings are common. Trekking poles aren't necessary for most hikers, but they can be helpful if you have balance issues or if your brood needs a little something extra to keep them entertained. Don't forget sun protection like a hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen. Since some portions of the trail are exposed, bring a first aid kit, compass, flashlight, and map, as the area is a little confusing. For examples of the gear we hiked with, read the video description now while you watch. Can you swim or wade at Red Rock Falls or Fisher Cap Lake? If you're thinking of jumping in to cool off, remember this is snowmelt fed water. It's cold. Still, many hikers will take their boots off and dip their feet in for a few minutes. Fisher Cap Lake is better suited for moose than humans, but Red Rock Falls has small pools that are a bit more inviting. So while swimming isn't really the goal, you can wade in carefully at Red Rock Falls if you're up for a chilling experience. Can I extend the hike beyond Red Rock Falls? Sometimes you hit a trail and just don't want to stop. If that happens at Red Rock Falls, you're in luck. You can continue up the Swift Current Pass Trail to reach Bullhead Lake. The terrain gets steeper and more rugged the farther you go, but it also gets more dramatic. If you are looking for a longer hike, you can even take Swift Current Trail to the Granite Chalet and further to going to the Sun Road. If you need a place to recharge after those long hikes, the next campground might be perfect. And once you're rested up, get ready for one of Glacier National Park's most photogenic trails, Iceberg Lake. If you're planning a trip to Glacier National Park and need a place to spend the night, come on a walk with us for 10 questions you need to ask about Mountain Meadow RV Park to decide if it's the right base camp for you and your brood to explore beautiful Glacier National Park. Let's get started. We'll discuss location first and later talk about what you will find in the campground. Where is Mountain Meadow RV Resort located? Mountain Meadow RV Resort sits just 9 miles southwest of the west entrance of Glacier National Park on US Highway 2. In about 15 minutes, you can be at the Apgar Visitor Center and the start of the Going to the Sun Road. That makes it one of the closest private campgrounds to the park. You get the convenience of being right next to Glacier while still feeling like you're camping in a quiet, forested mountain setting. Now that we know the location, what types of campsites are available? The resort has a wide variety of sites that work for different types of travelers. There are full hookup, pull-through, and back-in RV sites that can handle everything from smaller trailers to big rigs. They also offer partial hookup sites for those who don't need everything, plus tent sites for people who want a simpler camping experience. The campground itself is set on rolling, hilly terrain, as you can see here, but it's something that doesn't really come across in the virtual walkthrough. But the good news is that every site we saw was well built, level, and easy to set up on. Many are shaded by tall trees, while others are more open and sunny, so you can choose what fits your style. We'll discuss amenities next and later share with you what is available outside the campground. What amenities are available at Mountain Meadow RV Park? Mountain Meadow RV Park has a solid set of amenities that make your stay comfortable. You'll find laundry facilities, clean showers, and a well-stocked camp store with essentials you might need. Adults appreciate the campsites and peaceful setting with wooden swings and mountain views. The campground also has free Wi-Fi, which isn't always easy to find close to Glacier National Park. One other feature is the fenced dog park, giving your four-legged travel companions a safe place to run and play off-leash. We'll talk more about that later, but every good camping video needs a dad joke. Since we just discussed Wi-Fi, what does a baby computer call his father? Data. Okay, let's get back to the list. And does Mountain Meadow RV Park have fishing? The campground has a small fishing pond stocked with trout, and it's a unique feature for guests. The rules are a little different from normal fishing. If you're doing catch and release, it's completely free, and you don't need a license, which makes it easy for families or beginners to give fishing with barbless flies a try. If you decide to keep what you catch, the fee is $1 per inch of trout at the time of this video. Fishing here is restricted to barbless flies only, and because the trout are fed daily, they aren't always hungry. When we tried, we didn't catch anything. And that seemed to be the case for most people around the pond. It's a pretty place to practice casting or let kids try out fishing without the hassle of a license, but it may not be the spot to plan on catching your dinner. If you are looking for more things to do than Glacier National Park, you will want to ask, what is there to do near Hungry Horse, Montana? Hungry Horse is a small town, but it's a convenient base for exploring Glacier National Park and the surrounding area. If you're looking for a recovery day from hiking or just want something low-key, there are plenty of nearby activities. For example, we drove into Kalispell, just a short drive away, to restock and watch a movie at the Cinemark Theater to recover after several long hikes. Hungry Horse is also known for the Hungry Horse Dam, which is worth a quick stop for the views and a little history. You can explore local shops, grab a bite at nearby restaurants, or take a scenic drive along the Flathead River. It's a great way to mix in some rest and convenience while still enjoying the Montana outdoors. We'll continue the list in a minute, but are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our campground reviews in the national parks in this way to help you plan your first trip. Subscribe today so that you get all of our videos on Glacier National Park, and when you search the next place we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the questions. Is Mountain Meadow RV Park family friendly? Mountain Meadow RV Park is set up more for couples, but families traveling with kids of all ages are welcome. Kids can enjoy biking around the resort or playing in the open spaces. There is a beautiful lawn, but if you're looking for pools, playgrounds, game rooms, and other kid-centric activities, other properties may be better for your brood. But the free catch and release fishing, the dog park, and peaceful nature of the property might be a nice change of pace. Now that we know what to expect at the campground, we should ask, how do the prices at Mountain Meadow RV Park compare to the other campgrounds? One of the best things about Mountain Meadow is that it's affordable compared to other private campgrounds near Glacier National Park. Rates are much lower than the nearby West Glacier KOA, which is known for having a higher price point and is much closer to Glacier National Park. While you won't find resort-style extras like a swimming pool, you still get full hookups, clean facilities, and a quiet mountain setting, all at a price that makes it a smart base camp for exploring the park. For many travelers, that balance of location and value with RV sites less than $100 per night at the time of this video makes Mountain Meadow RV Park a hidden gem. But you may also find AAA and Good Sam discounts to reduce the price for your stay. Are reservations necessary for Mountain Meadow RV Park? Yes, this campground is very popular in the summer, especially from June through August, and sites fill up quickly, like at many of the campgrounds in the area. As you can see, the campground was full during our stay. If you're traveling with a larger RV or want specific amenities, you'll want to book several months in advance and call ahead to book the right site for your rig. If you're flexible, you may find last-minute openings in the shoulder season like May or September, but don't count on it during peak travel times. While you continue watching, check out our video description for the Mountain Meadow RV Park website and other resources to help you plan your Glacier National Park vacation. Let's continue with, can I bring my pet to Mountain Meadow RV Park? Mountain Meadow RV Park is pet-friendly, and they go a step beyond by offering a fenced dog park where your pup can stretch its legs off-leash, and dogway stations are located throughout the park so that you won't have to worry about finding a bag to pick up after your canine. Dogs are also welcome at the campsites, and there's plenty of space to walk them around the property. As always, pets need to be leashed outside of the dog park and cleaned up after. But many travelers appreciate that they don't have to leave their furry family members behind when visiting Glacier National Park. What makes Mountain Meadow RV Park special? What really sets Mountain Meadow RV Park apart is the combination of location, value, and peaceful atmosphere. You're only minutes away from Glacier National Park, but the campground itself feels like a quiet mountain retreat. You get amenities that make your trip comfortable, family and pet-friendly features like horseshoes, fishing pond, large grassy area to run and play, and a dog park for your pets to do the same, and affordable prices compared to nearby alternatives. For many people, Mountain Meadow RV Park strikes the perfect balance between convenience, amenities, and price, making it one of the best bases for a Glacier National Park adventure. This is easily one of our favorite hikes in the entire park, but stick around, because after this, we'll show you a great spot to stay nearby on Glacier National Park's east side. Come on a hike with us on Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park. You don't know what you are walking into. While we walk, listen closely because you need to know answers to 12 important questions for your first visit. People die on this trail, and we'll cover details on the hike and hidden dangers to keep you safe, all while showing you great views from beginning to end. Let's get started. Glacier National Park has a lot of great hikes, so the first question you should ask is the Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park worth it? From the very first mile, you're treated to sweeping mountain views, open meadows, and glimpses of distant peaks. Midway through the hike, you will pass ptarmigan waterfall and possibly wildlife, but nothing prepares you for the final reveal. A stunning ice blue lake surrounded by towering cliffs and often scattered with floating chunks of ice. Photos and our video footage coming later don't do it justice, and the sense of scale you get standing there in person is unforgettable. But we'll do our best to share what we discovered. The return hike is all downhill, which gives you time to reflect on the beauty you just witnessed and revisit everything from a different perspective. Iceberg Lake is absolutely worth the effort, but this trail is not for everyone. So, how hard is the Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? As you hike through Glacier National Park, elevation and distance are always factors to consider. Iceberg Lake Trail is no exception. The scenery starts early, and although there are some long stretches of uphill hiking, the path is well maintained and doesn't include any technical climbs or dangerous scrambles. But the elevation gain of about 1,200 feet is spread out enough that most hikers can find a steady rhythm without overexertion. Therefore, if you're in reasonably good shape, you'll find the experience challenging, but knowing what is to come at the end of the trail keeps you hiking and yearning for memorable glacial views we will show later. Iceberg Lake Trail is considered a moderately strenuous hike, mainly due to its 10-mile round-trip distance rather than its difficulty, which we'll discuss in more detail towards the end of this video. We'll discuss what to take with you on your hike in a bit, but it's important to ask, when is the best time to hike Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? One of the big considerations in Glacier is seasonal access. Even in July, many high elevation trails can still be snow covered and weather conditions can change quickly. Early season hikers might run into snowpacked trails, icy creek crossings, or closed sections of trail. Wildflowers tend to bloom from mid-July through August, and wildlife is especially active during this period. By September, the crowds thin out, but so do the hours of daylight. For that perfect balance of accessibility, weather, and views, the best time to hike Iceberg Lake is between late July and early September. But check the National Park Service website for the most current trail conditions and closures. Have you decided when you are going to Glacier National Park? Join the conversation today and let us know in the comments. Many people want to do the polar plunge in Glacier National Park, so can you swim Iceberg Lake in Glacier National Park? There's something about clear turquoise water that makes you want to dive in, but here it comes with a cost. Iceberg Lake is fed by snowfields and glacial melt, so the water is just barely above freezing, even in August. The air near the lake can be cool and breezy too, especially in the afternoon. Some people do take a plunge, often for a quick viral moment or as part of a bucket list challenge. But Iceberg Lake at its best is basically like an ice cube filled glass of water. Most therefore stay on the shore and admire the view. You can technically swim in Iceberg Lake, but if you do go for a swim, have an exit plan. A plan for if your adventure goes wrong, and make sure your phone is recording the event. While we were at Iceberg Lake, we saw a daring woman strip down to her bikini, swim to some floating ice, take her TikTok poses, and return to shore to a waiting towel. Anyway, when hiking, the journey is often as good or better than the destination. So, what wildlife could you see on Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? Glacier's mini-glacier region is often referred to as the Serengeti of North America, and Iceberg Lake Trail supports that reputation. Hikers frequently see marmots sunning themselves on rocks, pika darting between bushes, and even mountain goats or bighorn sheep high up on the cliffs. But down in the meadows and valleys, moose are sometimes spotted, especially near water sources. Bears can be seen too, often foraging for berries in late summer. Keep your distance and bring a camera with zoom if you want to capture these moments safely. If you hike this trail, you've got a solid chance of spotting wildlife, including mountain goats, marmots, moose, and even bears. We'll discuss how to get to the trail next, but since everyone wants to see a bear, are there really bears on Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? This part of the park is known for its incredible biodiversity we discussed earlier, including bears. Glacier is home to both grizzlies and black bears, but the Mini Glacier area is one of the most active bear zones in the park. In fact, we heard of bear sightings in the Swift Current area the day we hiked. If you hike early in the morning or late in the evening, your chances of a wildlife encounter increase. But on the downside, rangers frequently post signs about recent sightings or even trail closures, and it's not unusual to hear reports of hikers spotting bears along the trail, especially during berry season. There are definitely bears on the Iceberg Lake Trail, and you should always hike with bear spray and remain alert. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. I asked the ranger if I really needed bear spray. She said, it's optional, like seatbelts and parachutes. Okay, back to the list, and where does the Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park start? The Mini Glacier area in Glacier National Park is home to some of the park's most beloved hikes, and parking here is in high demand during the summer months. Mini Glacier is located on the northeast side of Glacier National Park. From St. Mary, Montana, it takes about a 40-minute drive to get to the Swift Current Inn. It's almost impossible to do it in a day from the more popular West Glacier. But to move on, it's a good idea to get there early if you want time for bathroom breaks, last-minute gear checks, and maybe a quick snack before heading out. Everything you need is close by. The Swift Current Motor Inn offers food, restrooms, a small store, and parking. But the trail itself starts northeast of or right behind the Swift Current Motor Inn and heads off into open meadows before rising gently into the mountains. We'll provide more details next, but with this top 10 hike, is the Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park crowded? Iceberg Lake is one of Glacier's signature hikes, and its popularity reflects that. During the summer, particularly from late July through Labor Day, the trail sees heavy foot traffic between 10 and 3 p.m. But the length of the trail helps spread hikers out, and you'll often find quieter pockets where you can enjoy the scenery in peace. The lake itself, especially midday, can feel a little crowded, but if you hike early or late in the day, it's a completely different experience. But there is a lot of shoreline, and with the trees, you might find some quieter, secluded spots. Iceberg Lake Trail does get crowded in peak season, but early morning or late afternoon hikes offer more solitude. To consider whether you should attempt this hike, you need to ask, How long is the Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? In Glacier National Park, all visitors should consider the length and elevation gain of the hikes they want to conquer. Each hike should be assessed against your abilities. The Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park is long enough to challenge most hikers. The National Park Service has the length of the hike at 10 miles round trip, but the elevation gain is just as important because in the mountains, the elevation gain can be more than climbing skyscrapers, and Iceberg Lake is no exception. If I asked you if you wanted to climb the stairs of the Hancock Building in Chicago, would you say yes? Iceberg Lake Trail has an elevation gain taller than the Hancock Building of 1,200 vertical feet. The Hancock Building tops out at just over 1,100 feet tall. We'll discuss who should hike this trail next, but are you enjoying this walk and talk format? We share all of our experiences this way to help you plan your first visit. Subscribe today so the next time you search for a place we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Can kids hike Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? Families often look to this trail for a longer day hike with a big reward, and it can be a fantastic option or a bitter disappointment depending on your child's endurance. There's no technical terrain and the incline is steady, not steep. But 10 miles is a long distance, especially for younger kids. If they've done moderate hikes before and you plan for breaks, they can absolutely make it. Even if you don't reach the lake, Ptarmigan Falls and the views along the way are still worthwhile. As you can see, our kids were 15, 13, and 11 when we hiked to Iceberg Lake. Older, healthy kids that enjoy the outdoors can hike Iceberg Lake Trail, but only if they're used to longer hikes. Younger families can attempt the hike, but if necessary, be prepared to turn around for the safety and happiness of your brood. To help you and your group hike successfully, you need to ask this question. What gear should I bring to hike Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? Weather can change quickly in Glacier, especially at higher elevations. That's why layered clothing is key. Even in summer, it can be 80 degrees at the trailhead and 45 degrees at Iceberg Lake. Temperatures and weather will also change over the 7-hour adventure. Bring a lightweight rain jacket, hat, and gloves just in case. You'll also want high-energy stacks, sunscreen, and at least 2 liters of water per person. Bear spray is essential, as is a good pair of hiking shoes with grip. Trekking poles help on the long return and reduce fatigue. A camera or phone with a full battery is great for capturing the incredible views. The trail is well marked, but there are some connecting trails, including Ptarmigan Tunnel, so include a compass and map in your kit as well. But for safety, pack a rescue rope, first aid kit, and a flashlight in case you end up hiking at sunset. All of this can fit into a lightweight hydration day pack like we are wearing. If you want recommendations, we've added links to our video description of the gear we use to day hike Glacier National Park. Read it now while you watch. If you are like me, you will want to know, are there any facilities at Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? Unlike some remote trailheads in Glacier, Swift Current Motor Inn makes this one relatively comfortable. You can grab a hot breakfast, pick up bear spray, refill water bottles, and even grab a sandwich for the trail. Real indoor bathrooms are available inside the inn, and the area is a convenient spot to regroup before setting off. It's also one of the few areas in the park where you might have a sliver of cell service. Once you're on the trail though, it's all wilderness, but you will find a pit toilet near the intersection of Ptarmigan Tunnel and at Iceberg Lake. There are facilities at the trailhead including restrooms, information, water fill, and a general store, but nothing but pit toilets once you start hiking. If Mini Glacier is on your list, and it should be, this next campground is the perfect base camp. After that, we'll hike one of the most beloved trails in the park, Avalanche Lake. Thinking about staying on the east side of Glacier National Park? Come on a walk with us through St. Mary KOA while we share the answers to 11 questions you should ask before booking your Glacier National Park trip. Let's get started. Why camp on the east side of Glacier National Park? Many people choose the east side because it puts you closer to some of Glacier's most iconic hikes and scenery like Logan Pass, St. Mary Lake, and Mini Glacier. Driving from the west side past Lake McDonald to see these areas can take over 2 hours, especially in peak season. So being based on the east side saves you a ton of travel time each day. The east side also tends to be less crowded than the busy west entrance, so you'll often find more open space and quicker access to trails. For people who want to maximize their hiking time, staying at St. Mary KOA makes a lot of sense. We'll talk about Wi-Fi later, and stay until the end for the most important question. But, is St. Mary KOA a good base camp for visiting Glacier? St. Mary KOA is one of the most convenient private campgrounds near the park. It's located just outside the St. Mary entrance, only a couple of minutes from going to the Sun Road. That means you can get an early start before the parking lots at Logan Pass fill up. But it's also a little over 20 minutes to the mini glacier entrance to the park. The campground itself is more resort-like than rustic, with pools, a hot tub, a convenience store on site, laundry facilities, and more. If you like the idea of combining national park adventures during the day with a few comforts in the evening, this campground hits a sweet spot and is better than staying in Glacier National Park. Let's get into campsite details now, and later we'll discuss what is available for kids. What will people find at their campsite at St. Mary KOA? Each site comes with the basics you'd expect from a KOA, a level pad, a picnic table, and a fire ring. RV sites typically have full hookups, water, sewer, and 30 amp and or 50 amp electrical service. Some premium sites have patios or more open views of the mountains. But you'll notice as we walk, like many KOAs, the RV sites are generally a parking lot with minimal space. Still, with full days in the park, the campground was quiet during our stay, and we didn't spend a lot of time hanging out at our campsite. If you're staying in a cabin, you'll find beds, electricity, and heat, but you'll need to bring your own linens unless you rent them from the campground. Many of the tent sites are located in the wooded area near Lower St. Mary Lake and have privacy. But some also have water and electricity. Let's discuss Wi-Fi now and later discuss the amenities you'll discover in the campground. Is there Wi-Fi or cell service at St. Mary KOA? One of the big advantages of staying here is that you get access to Wi-Fi, maybe. We've noticed on recent reviews that their Wi-Fi is down at the moment. When they have service and when we visited, the Wi-Fi was usually good enough for email, maps, and quick uploads. Cell coverage in St. Mary itself is also stronger than in the park, though it depends on your carrier. But recent upgrades in the area give AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile decent service in the campground. For people working remotely or wanting to stay connected while traveling, this makes St. Mary KOA much easier than the national park campgrounds. We'll discuss the campground amenities next, but are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all the campgrounds we stay at in this manner so you can see as much as possible. Subscribe today for more videos on Glacier National Park. And when you search the next park we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the questions. And how are the amenities at St. Mary KOA? After a long day of hiking, you can soak in the hot tub or cool off in the pool, or do both. There's also a lake within walking distance where you can relax and take photos of the surrounding peaks. The laundry room is convenient if you're on a long road trip and need to catch up on chores, and there's a camp store stocked with snacks, firewood, and last-minute gear. These extras make it especially appealing for families or anyone who wants a bit more comfort after roughing it on the trail. You will also find clean bathhouses with hot showers. For dogs, you will find a camp canine near the entrance and way stations throughout the campground with doggy bags available. We also saw a stray dog that hangs around the campground, so keep your animals on leash, even though the dog was not a bother. With Glacier National Park next door, you may wonder, do the St. Mary KOA campsites have views of Glacier National Park? St. Mary KOA is perched near the entrance to the park, and depending on where your site is located, you can get sweeping views of the mountains and even St. Mary Lake, like these pictures. Some of the premium RV sites and tent areas look right out toward the peaks, which makes for spectacular sunrises and sunsets. That said, not every site has a postcard-perfect view, but a short walk through the campground will open you up to the beautiful landscape. Before we continue, every good campground review needs a dad joke. What did the tent say to the sleeping bag? I've got you covered. Okay, back to the list. And if you're looking for those beautiful sunsets, you may also ask, are campfires allowed at St. Mary KOA? Most sites come with a fire ring, and campfires are allowed when fire restrictions aren't in place. Because Glacier's east side can be very dry in late summer, fire bans do happen, so it's always best to check with the office when you arrive. The campground store sells firewood, and many guests enjoy winding down their evenings with a campfire after a day of hiking. If fires aren't allowed during your stay, the cabins and RVs with hookups give you backup comfort options. Some people complain about the smoke in the campground, which makes sense with the narrow sites, but we didn't have any issues during our visit. Every campground is a little different, so What is the atmosphere like at the campground? The atmosphere at St. Mary KOA is more like a base camp resort than a rustic wilderness experience. During the day, you'll see families heading to the pool, hikers loading up for trails, and RVers relaxing outside with mountain views in the background. But it's pretty quiet. Most everyone is here to hike and visit Glacier National Park. Evenings often bring campfires, stargazing, and people gathering at the campground store for ice cream, share experiences, or to restock. It's friendly, and while you won't get solitude here, you will get a comfortable place to recharge between long days in Glacier National Park. Before we continue, what are you looking forward to in Glacier? Join the conversation and share in the comments. If you're bringing a family, you will want to know, what is there for kids to do at St. Mary KOA? Families traveling with kids will find plenty to keep them busy at St. Mary KOA. The pools and hot tub are a big hit, offering a fun way to cool down or splash around after a day exploring the park. But you can also practice your putting on the nearby putting green. The campground has open areas for play, a playground, horseshoes, beanbags, walking paths, and access to a nearby lake where kids can skip rocks, fish, or just enjoy the scenery. KOAs often organize family-friendly activities during the summer, like ice cream socials or evening programs. While Glacier's hiking trails are the main attraction, the KOA gives kids a chance to have fun downtime between adventures. What is there to do in St. Mary besides camping? St. Mary is a small gateway town, so don't expect much, but it has just enough to keep visitors comfortable when they're not out exploring Glacier National Park. You'll find a handful of restaurants, including a pizza place that serve hearty meals after a long day on the trail. On the way to Mini Glacier, we recommend the Cattle Baron Supper Club if you like beef. You wouldn't expect it from the outside, but the inside is decorated nice and the meals are great. There are also a couple of small markets and gas stations where you can stock up on essentials in town, but expect to pay a premium. One highlight is the St. Mary Visitor Center, located right at the park entrance, which offers ranger programs, exhibits about the Blackfeet Nation, and sweeping views of St. Mary Lake. We also filled up our water bottles here. Many visitors also enjoy taking a boat tour on St. Mary Lake for a different perspective of the mountains, or spending time fishing, kayaking, or photographing the area's famous sunrises and sunsets. While the town is small, it serves as a practical and scenic hub for everything you'll want to do on Glacier's east side. Are there bears in the campground? Bears do live in the St. Mary area, and it's always possible for them to pass through the campground. Both black bears and grizzly bears are common on the east side of Glacier National Park, and since St. Mary KOA sits right on the edge of wild country, campers should always be bear aware. The campground provides bear-proof trash bins and asks guests to keep food stored properly when not in use. While sightings inside the KOA are rare, because of the activity and noise, it's important to treat the area like bear country. Never leave food out, clean your cooking area, and follow campground rules. Many guests enjoy the reassurance of being in a more developed, well-monitored campground while still staying close to Glacier's rugged wilderness. But be comforted that the campground does monitor and take steps to reduce bear encounters. If you're still with us, thank you. Drop a comment below and let us know your favorite part so far. As a reward, here's one of Glacier National Park's most stunning destination hikes, and later we'll share 5 easy hikes almost anyone can enjoy. What if I told you that one of Glacier National Park's most iconic hikes was discovered during an exploration trip in the 1890s and named because avalanches crashed down the cliffs while the explorers were still there? Come on a hike with us to get you ready for the Avalanche Lake Trail with 13 popular questions about this beautiful adventure full of natural wonder. Let's get started. Later we will get into what you should take with you, but let's begin our hike and our first question with, why is Avalanche Lake called Avalanche Lake? Back in 1895, a man named Dr. Lyman Sperry, a professor and adventurer, led an exploratory group into what we now call Glacier National Park. When they arrived at this alpine basin, they were stunned by the view, but the booming sounds of avalanches crashing down the cliffs were overwhelming. Later, when we show you the lake, imagine snow, ice, and rock ripping down the sheer walls of Bear Hat Mountain and its neighboring peaks. Trees were flattened. The sound echoed like thunder. So what did Sperry do? He called it Avalanche Basin on the spot. That raw display of nature's force gave the lake its name and its legacy. So you only have so much time. Is Avalanche Lake and Glacier National Park worth the hike? Avalanche Lake Trail is one of the crown jewels of Glacier National Park, and for good reason. After a modest climb through dense cedar forest, you're rewarded with a jaw-dropping view, a shimmering glacier-fed lake framed by a rugged amphitheater of cliffs and multiple waterfalls tumbling from snowfields above. In early summer, the waterfalls roar. In the fall, golden light kisses the peaks. It's quiet, spiritual, and cinematic. Whether you're hiking solo or with family and friends, Avalanche Lake is the kind of place that makes your jaw drop and your heart slow down. It's worth every step, as the view will make you pause quietly to absorb the scene. But this is bear country, and the trail can be deadly, which we will explain later. Anyway, how long is the Avalanche Lake Trail, and how difficult is it? Avalanche Lake Trail is nothing extreme, but enough to get your legs and lungs working. One of the reasons people like it so much. But the trail has a gradual incline, with a few shorter, steeper sections, and is well maintained. Most people can do it without much trouble, especially if they take their time. Avalanche Lake Trail is a 4.6-mile total out and back hike with just over 700 feet of elevation gain. That makes it an easy to moderate hike. The path winds along Avalanche Creek, and every bend offers something new: waterfalls, giant cedar trees, mossy boulders, and views that whisper, "Keep going, it's going to be worth it." We'll talk about bears next, but when is the best time to hike Avalanche Lake Trail? The window to visit Glacier National Park is so small that this question is easy. Go when you know you can get to the parking lot without snow, which means late June through September. But in early summer, the waterfalls that pour into the lake are supercharged by snowmelt, turning the scene into something out of a fantasy movie. By July, the trail is mostly dry and wildflowers line the path. September brings golden larches and fewer crowds. Go early in the day for the best lighting and fewer people. If you hike at sunrise, you'll see the lake like a mirror, as you see on the day we went, perfectly still and reflecting the mountains above. It's a magical experience. Are there bears on the Avalanche Lake Trail? Glacier National Park is home to both grizzly and black bears, and although this trail is popular and often busy, bear encounters can still happen. It's important to carry bear spray and make noise as you hike, especially in the early morning or late evening when bear activity increases. Stick to the trail, hike in groups if possible, and don't leave food behind. It's their home, we're just visiting. But did you know there is an even more deadly hidden danger on this trail? We'll discuss that later, but first, every good hiking video needs a dad joke. Since we are hiking to a lake, what do you call a fish wearing a bow tie? Sophisticated. Okay, let's get back to the list and answer. Is the Avalanche Lake Trail crowded? You won't be alone out there, but don't let that discourage you. Start your hike early before 8 a.m. or in the late afternoon, and you'll find pockets of peace, and on the way out, you won't get a lot of two-way traffic. And once you reach the lake, there's enough shoreline to spread out and claim your own quiet spot to sit, snack, and soak it all in. On the way back, you'll see more people. Avalanche Lake is popular, especially between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. in July and August, but is limited by parking and shuttle service. Let's discuss gear next, and later we'll let you know whether you can swim in the lake. What gear should I take when hiking Avalanche Lake Trail? When hiking Avalanche Lake Trail in Glacier National Park, it's important to pack smart. Changing weather, bear activity, and rugged terrain can catch people off guard. Start with a good hydration day pack with 1.5 to 2.5 liter water bladder. This will give you room for water and be perfect for carrying your layers, snacks, and safety gear. For footwear, sturdy trail shoes or hiking boots are key, and consider waterproof options early in the season when snowmelt often makes the trail muddy or even flooded in sections. Trekking poles are optional but great for stability, particularly on steeper or slick sections. Dress in layers that wick moisture and dry quickly. A fleece or lightweight down jacket is smart even in summer, and a rain jacket or windbreaker is highly recommended. Depending on the day, you might want warm gloves. Weather in Glacier can shift quickly and storms roll in with little warning, but don't forget sun protection and consider a hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen, especially once you reach the lake or tree cover disappears and the alpine sun reflects off the water. Read our description now while you watch for examples of what we day hiked with in Glacier National Park. We'll discuss what to pack later, but can you swim in Avalanche Lake? The lake is fed by snowmelt and glacial runoff, so the water is often just above freezing, even in August. A lot of hikers take off their boots, dip their feet in the water, and maybe splash around. Some brave souls jump in for a quick, shock-filled swim. It's a full-body wake-up call. If you go in, keep it quick, skip the soap to protect the habitat, and leave no trace. I'm not one for cold swims, but you can swim, and I bet you won't be long. We'll let you know where the bathrooms are next, but are you enjoying this walk and talk format? We share all of our travels this way to help you plan your trip well. Subscribe today so the next time you search a national park we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Are there bathrooms or water along Avalanche Lake Trail? Use the facilities before you go. As for water, bring your own. At least 1 liter per person, more on hot days. There are creeks and streams, but you'll need a filter or purifier if you plan to refill. Don't count on drinking glacier water unless you come prepared. Bathrooms are located only at the Trail of the Cedars trailhead and the Avalanche Creek picnic area. Once you're on the trail, there's nothing until you return. Are dogs allowed on the Avalanche Lake Trail? Dogs aren't allowed on any hiking trails in Glacier National Park, including this one. That's to protect wildlife and the natural ecosystem and keep everyone safe, especially in bear country. If you're traveling with a pup, look into dog-friendly trails outside the park in nearby national forests. Inside the park, dogs are welcome in developed areas, campgrounds, and parking lots, but it's best to leave them at home. We'll show you how to get to the trail later, but what should I pack when hiking Avalanche Lake Trail? Water is a must, so bring at least 1 to 1.5 liters per person. Bring high-energy snacks or even a packed lunch to enjoy something to eat while soaking in the views at the lake. Also, don't forget motivation. We like to bring gummy worms, fruit chews, or other treats for when the hike gets long. Because you're hiking in bear country, bear spray is required. Carry it where it's easy to access, either on your backpack strap or on your belt. A small first aid kit is smart too. There are no real cliff edges, so you can leave the rescue rope in the car. Bring a camera or your phone to capture memories, but consider packing a small power bank, as the cold can zap your battery quickly. Download a trail map offline or bring a paper one, and bring a compass and flashlight with batteries just in case. While the route is clear, it's always wise to have a backup map, and if you get caught after dark, you'll want the light. Do people die on the Avalanche Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? Like any hike in Glacier National Park, there are real risks if you're unprepared. One of the biggest concerns is wildlife. This is bear country, and carrying bear spray and knowing how to use it is absolutely essential. We can't say it enough. Staying alert, hiking in groups, and making noise can greatly reduce the risk of a surprise encounter. But what might be more dangerous is the creek itself. Recently, people have slipped and fallen into Avalanche Creek. They were swept into the gorge and killed by the raging waters. But enjoy the creek from a distance and you'll be fine. So while Avalanche Lake Trail isn't considered a dangerous hike, it does demand respect. Where does the Avalanche Lake Trail start? Your journey begins on the Trail of the Cedars, which is located just north of Lake McDonald, on Going to the Sun Road. The trail is a short, wheelchair-accessible loop through an ancient forest of towering western red cedars and hemlocks. It feels like walking through a living cathedral. About halfway around the Trail of the Cedars, you'll see a sign for Avalanche Lake, and that's where the true adventure begins. The shift is subtle. The wheelchair-accessible trail ends, and the incline, routes, and steps begin. As you walk, the sound of Avalanche Creek gets louder. You're heading deeper into the park to a landscape shaped by water, time, and ice. Now, let's slow things down with 5 easy hikes that showcase Glacier National Park's beauty without the sweat. After that, we'll head into one of our favorites, a peaceful walk through towering cedars. Glacier National Park is full of easy hikes. If you're looking for scenery without suffering, you're in the right place. Come on a hike with us for 5 easy trails in Glacier National Park that are beautiful and perfect for first-time visitors, families, or anyone who wants big rewards with low effort. Let's get started with the easiest hike on the list. How long does it take to hike the Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? Trail of the Cedars winds through towering ancient cedar trees that form a shady, peaceful canopy like stepping into another world. But did you know this hike is handicap accessible? The trail was built with strollers and wheelchairs in mind. Trail of the Cedars is a loop trail about 1 mile long with hardly any elevation gain. You'll hear the soft rush of Avalanche Creek before you even see it. When you reach Avalanche Gorge, the water is a shockingly bright blue, carving through mossy rock walls like something from a fairy tale. The whole trail is flat, shaded, and built for strolling, not sweating. So if you are in for a more casual stroll, expect 30 minutes or more to do this hike. Whether you're easing into your trip or traveling with kids, it's hard to imagine a more welcoming place to start. Later, we will discuss the best waterfall hike in the park and a trail to a hidden lake high up in the clouds. But right now, is Avalanche Lake in Glacier National Park a hard hike? From the boardwalk of Trail of the Cedars, the trail gently climbs through old-growth forest, following the clear water of Avalanche Creek. Here you will need to ditch the stroller as we get a little more difficult. It's steady climb, but never steep. And every bend reveals something new, a mossy boulder, a peak at the mountains above, or the rush of water from recent snowmelt. This hike is 2.3 miles one way, or just over 4.5 miles out and back. The elevation gain is 500 feet, and for the longer trek and climb up to the lake, this is a little more difficult than Trail of the Cedars. But by the time you reach Avalanche Lake, the view opens up to a dramatic mountain landscape, waterfalls cascading hundreds of feet into turquoise water, and worth every step. You can rest up here and know that the hike back to going to the Sun Road is all downhill. We have 3 more to go, but are you enjoying this walk and talk format? We share all of our hikes about Glacier and the national parks in this format. Subscribe today so when you search for a place we've been to, our videos show up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to our easy hikes. And do you wonder, where is the best spot to see moose in Glacier National Park? If spotting a moose is high on your Glacier National Park bucket list, there's one trail that gives you your best shot, and it's easy. Head to Mini Glacier and look for the Swift Current Pass Trail, which begins behind the Swift Current Motor Inn. This area is a moose hotspot, thanks to the lush meadows, ponds, and streams that run right alongside the trail. But there is a secret to Fisher Cap Lake that only the moose know. The hike to Red Rock Falls is just under 4 miles round trip, mostly flat and incredibly scenic. You'll pass Fisher Cap Lake early on, which is the prime moose viewing spot. Come early in the morning or just before sunset, and you'll often see them wading in the water, grazing on moose salad in the shallows. But even if the moose are shy that day, Red Rock Falls is a worthy reward. From the Swift Current Inn, the hike to Red Rock Falls is 3.6 miles round trip. The falls cascade over layers of colorful rock, and the surrounding peaks frame the scene perfectly. Plan on about 2 to 3 hours to hike to Red Rock Falls and a mild elevation gain, but this hike is special because it hikes by 2 lakes and great views of Mount Grinnell, Grinnell Point, and other adjacent peaks. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. Since we hike with our brood, here's a good family joke. What does the baby computer call his father? Data. Okay, we're going to discuss an easy hike at Logan's Pass next, but let's continue hiking Swift Current Pass to answer this question. Why are these hikes in Glacier National Park considered easy? Glacier National Park is known for its rugged mountains and steep, challenging terrain, but as we are showing here, not every hike is a thigh burner. These 5 hikes are considered easy because they meet a few key criteria. First, distance and elevation gain. Most of these hikes are under 4 miles round trip with relatively gentle inclines. Like us, you won't find extended climbs or high altitude switchbacks here. Even Avalanche Lake, which feels more adventurous, gains less than 800 feet spread out over a wide, well-maintained path. Second, trail surface and maintenance. These trails are popular and well-traveled, which means they're regularly maintained by the Park Service. You'll find clear signage, bridges over streams, and compacted dirt or boardwalks rather than loose rock or technical terrain. Trail of the Cedars, for example, is fully accessible and even stroller-friendly. And third, accessibility. These hikes are easy to get to from major areas of the park like Logan Pass, Mini Glacier, and Lake McDonald. You don't need a backcountry permit, special gear, or advanced planning. But what we like about this list is that it shows a variety of the best of Glacier National Park without having to be an athlete to experience it. So when we say these are easy hikes, we mean they're great for first-timers, families, or anyone who wants to experience Glacier's beauty without an all-day commitment or intense climb. Okay, back to the list, and if you hike to Red Rock Falls like we did, you may also see bears. But another place you may see bears and mountain goats is at Logan's Pass. So, how long does it take to hike to Hidden Lake Overlook in Glacier National Park? The trail starts behind the Logan Pass Visitor Center and quickly leads you into alpine meadows filled with wildflowers, marmots, and maybe even mountain goats. The path is part boardwalk and part gravel, and while it gains in elevation, the grade is gradual and inviting. If you hike earlier in the summer, you may walk across snowfields, but they're usually manageable with careful steps. Plan on 2.7 miles round trip and about an hour hiking this trail. When you arrive at the Overlook, the view of Hidden Lake and Bear Hat Mountain is absolutely unreal. This is one of the best places in the park to spot mountain goats, bighorn sheep, and other alpine animals up close, sometimes on the trail itself. Mountain goats tend to hang out near the Overlook, as you see here. You may also see marmots sunning on rocks or hear pika calling from the meadows. Wildlife tends to be most active early and late in the day, especially when crowds thin out. The best waterfall trail in the park is still to come. But what gear do you need for these easy hikes in Glacier National Park? You might not be climbing a mountain, but even the easiest hikes in Glacier need gear and supplies. Wear trail runners or hiking shoes with grip. You'll encounter roots, rocks, and sometimes snow while on the trails, and you need a sure footing. Bring a day pack with water, snacks, sunscreen, and bug spray, and always dress in layers. The weather can flip fast in Glacier National Park, and the ability to change things up will make you more comfortable. But if you're starting early or finishing late, gloves and a warm layer won't go unused. We wish we'd dressed warmer for Hidden Lake. Most importantly, keep bear spray on your belt or pack strap, not in your bag, and know how to use it. But we would also recommend a first aid kit just in case someone slips or trips and needs a band-aid or other light care. Trekking poles are optional, but helpful on downhills or snow patches. While you don't need a ton of gear, a few smart choices go a long way toward making these easy hikes even better. Why do you want to hike the easy trails in Glacier National Park? Join the conversation and comment today. Our next question takes us to the St. Mary section of Glacier National Park. Many first-time visitors ask, where can you find the best waterfall hike in Glacier National Park? Due to the constant melt of snow and glaciers in Glacier National Park, there are a lot of waterfalls. But the two most accessible waterfalls happen to be on the same trail. At first glance, this hike might seem simple, a waterfall trail off the Going to the Sun Road. But what makes the St. Mary and Virginia Falls hike truly special is the sheer variety of scenery, packed into such a short and accessible route. You start by walking through an area scarred by wildfire, where burned trees stand tall like ghostly sentinels. But the trail is alive with wildflowers and new growth, proof of how resilient glacier landscape can be. As you descend gently towards St. Mary River, you'll get views of Red Eagle and Little Chief Mountain and glimpses of St. Mary Lake. But your first stop is St. Mary Falls, a powerful double-tiered waterfall that plunges into a striking blue pool. But don't turn back. Just a half-mile further is the real showstopper, Virginia Falls. It's taller, louder, and often creates a fine mist that cools you down on a hot summer day. The trail is about 3.6 miles round trip, with a modest elevation gain, making it manageable for most visitors. What makes it truly unforgettable is that in one short hike, you get burnt forest, alpine river, wildflowers, panoramic views, and not one but two iconic waterfalls. Trail of the Cedars is one of Glacier National Park's most unique experiences, calm, cool, and full of character. And coming up, we'll share 3 epic hikes over 10 miles each. Looking for an easy Glacier National Park walk that everyone can enjoy? Trail of the Cedars offers just that. But beneath this serenity, there's a part of this trail that has caught even experienced visitors off guard, with tragic, even deadly consequences. Before your first trip, come on a hike with us as we explore 13 questions people should ask about Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park. Let's get started. Before we get into the details of the trail, why is Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park so special? Trail of the Cedars is special because it offers a rare blend of accessibility, beauty, and ecological uniqueness, all packed into a short, easy walk. Unlike most of Glacier National Park's alpine terrain, this trail leads you through a lush, almost rainforest-like grove filled with towering western red cedars and black cottonwoods, as you can see here. Some of these trees are over 500 years old and stretch more than 100 feet into the air. It's the only place in the park where this type of ancient forest thrives, making it a unique and unforgettable experience. We'll discuss the danger hidden in plain sight later, but first, where is Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park located? Trail of the Cedars is located on the west side of Glacier National Park, along the iconic Going to the Sun Road. It starts near the Avalanche Creek area, which is one of the most visited regions in the park. The trailhead is conveniently accessed from the Avalanche Picnic Area parking lot, making it a popular first stop for visitors entering from the West Glacier entrance. But if you are coming in from West Glacier, this hike is 30 minutes from the park entrance. This will be important as we answer another question later. When you think about hiking, we don't normally ask this next question. Is Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park wheelchair accessible? Yes, and that's one of the things that makes this trail so special. Trail of the Cedars is one of the very few fully wheelchair and stroller accessible trails in the park. It features a wide, well-maintained boardwalk and paved sections, making it an easy walk for people of all abilities. Whether you're pushing a stroller, using a wheelchair, or just want a flat walk after a long hike the day before, this trail is welcoming and accommodating. So as we walk and talk, you'll notice this really flat, beautiful trail. But don't worry, there are no unseen steps or tree roots to block your wheeled adventure. The trail is a bit narrow on the boardwalk though, so if you see a wheelchair, respect other travelers and share the path with everyone. Moving on with our list, how long is Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? The trail is a short loop of less than a mile with limited elevation change. Most people can complete the trail in 20 to 30 minutes, but many choose to take longer and enjoy the peaceful setting. But depending on how long you look up at the trees above, you might just hurt your neck. Therefore, with benches along the way and several interpretive signs, it's designed to be as much of an experience in relaxation and observation as it is a hike. We know there are trees, but what can I see on Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? This trail offers a stunning showcase of old-growth forest, including giant western red cedars, black cottonwoods, and hemlocks. Some trees reach over 100 feet tall and are more than 500 years old. To put the age of these trees in perspective, 500 years ago, the Ming Dynasty ruled China. Leonardo da Vinci was painting and exploring space. The Spanish and French were beginning to explore the Americas, and Martin Luther was leading the Protestant Reformation with his 95 Thesis in Europe. A highlight of the loop is the wooden footbridge over Avalanche Creek, where turquoise glacial water rushes through a carved gorge surrounded by mossy rocks and ferns. It's a lush, magical forest that feels like something out of a fairy tale, especially in the morning light or after rain. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke. Why didn't the glacier get invited to the party? Because it was too cool to hang out. Dad jokes make great gifts. For a couple books we recommend and for examples of what we hiked with in Glacier National Park, including backpacks and trekking poles, check out our video description. We'll discuss parking and what you need to even get to the parking lot next. But coming up later, we'll discuss what wildlife you might see on the trail. Is parking difficult at Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? Parking can be very challenging, especially during peak season in July and August. The Avalanche picnic area and trailhead parking lot fills up quickly, often by 8 or 9 a.m. on busy days, or maybe even earlier. Visitors are strongly encouraged to arrive early or use the free Glacier National Park shuttle, which stops nearby. The shuttle is a great alternative and helps avoid the frustration of circling for a spot. But during the day, you'll play musical chairs as people pull out. Those driving by will gladly take the newly opened spot. But note that you will see parking along Going to the Sun Road. However, you won't see the two larger parking lots on either side of the road. We noticed that there were parking lot is full signs in the road, but I think they are there all summer, as when we arrived in the morning, the lots were empty, but the signs were still there. So if there are no rangers at those parking lot entrances and the road parking is full, drive into these lots to see if there are spots. But you may not even get to the parking lot if you haven't considered, do I need a reservation or permit to get to Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? Yes, during most of the season, you'll need a vehicle reservation to access Going to the Sun Road during the day, which includes the Trail of the Cedars area. This is in addition to your park entrance fee. But if you don't have a permit for the day, you want to visit Trail of the Cedars, you can go in the evening after the permit required time. Reservations can be made online and are part of the park's effort to reduce congestion and protect natural resources. Permit offerings change, so it's best to go to nps.gov to learn more. For example, when we went, the permit was good all day, but now I see there are timed entry blocks in 2-hour increments. We'll put a link in our description to help you get to the vehicle reservation page with all the up-to-date details. When is the best time to visit Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? The best time to visit Trail of the Cedars is between late June and early October, when the trail is fully open and snow-free. Mornings and evenings offer fewer crowds and magical light filtering through the cedar trees, and you might just be able to get a parking spot. The trail is especially beautiful after a light rain, when everything looks extra green and the moss glistens. If you want a quiet and serene walk, aim for early morning before the lots fill up and shuttle crowds arrive. Next, we'll discuss what could get you killed on this trail. But first, are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our national park adventures in this way to show you as much as we can. Subscribe today so that when you search the next national park we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Okay, let's get back to the list. And what is the most dangerous part of Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? The deadly part of Trail of the Cedars is Avalanche Creek, particularly the section where the glacial runoff rushes through a narrow rocky gorge. Although the water is stunningly beautiful with its turquoise color and crystal clarity, it's incredibly powerful and dangerously cold, especially early in the season. Falling in can lead to hypothermia, serious injury, or even being swept away and killed by the strong current. What makes it especially risky is that the trail feels so safe and accessible. It's flat, well-maintained, and popular with families, which can cause visitors to let their guard down. Many people attempt to get closer to the water for a photo or a better view, often stepping off the boardwalk onto slippery, moss-covered rocks. These surfaces are extremely unstable and have led to tragic accidents, even among experienced hikers. Seriously, someone died just last year. So despite the peaceful setting, Avalanche Creek has claimed lives, making it a powerful reminder to always stay on the designated path and respect the forces of nature, even on an easy trail. But that is not the only danger. Is there wildlife on the Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? While Trail of the Cedars isn't typically a hotspot for large wildlife like grizzly bears or mountain goats, it is still teeming with natural life. You might see birds, squirrels, and maybe a deer in the early morning or late afternoon. But you're still in bear country, and although they are not here as often, it's necessary to stay bear aware. Therefore, it's always smart to carry bear spray, make noise while walking, and be aware of your surroundings in Glacier National Park, especially if you continue on to Avalanche Lake, which we'll discuss in a minute. But first, and sometimes most important, are there bathrooms at Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park? We didn't notice any bathrooms when we started on our hike, but we found a public bathroom along the trail that was a concrete building and generally nice. We couldn't find a light switch though, so depending on the time of day and the weather, it would be helpful to bring a flashlight or use your phone. There are also bathrooms in the adjacent campground. In fact, we may have stumbled on the bathroom that is for the campground. If you need to go and hike the whole loop, you can't miss the building. You'll find it. What is the easiest hike in Glacier National Park? Trail of the Cedars in Glacier National Park is ideal for seniors, families, and those with health conditions that limit their activity. In fact, this might be the easiest trail in the park. This is one of the most family-friendly and senior-friendly hikes in the park. With its flat, stable surface and interpretive signage, it's perfect for grandparents, toddlers, and everyone in between. You can take your time, enjoy the surroundings, and stop to rest without pressure. It's a great option for multi-generational groups or anyone easing into hiking. If you want to get off going to the Sun Road or are tired of just hanging out at the viewpoints, Trail of the Cedars is a great option to immerse yourself in a more natural setting away from the road. For those with energy for more, does Trail of the Cedars lead to Avalanche Lake in Glacier National Park? Yes, the Avalanche Lake trailhead starts from Trail of the Cedars, where this quiet trail becomes a jumping off point for more adventure. About halfway through Trail of the Cedars, you'll see the trailhead for the Avalanche Lake Trail, a moderately strenuous 4.6 mile out and back hike. If you have more energy and want to extend your time in nature, continuing to Avalanche Lake rewards you with one of the most stunning alpine lakes in the park, surrounded by waterfalls and steep cliffs. Coming up now, 3 of Glacier National Park's most unforgettable adventures, hikes that challenge even seasoned travelers but reward you with views you'll never forget. Glacier National Park has over 700 miles of trails, but these 3 hikes are like the park's greatest hits. But they aren't easy. They pack in the biggest views, the most dramatic landscapes, and the most wow moments without needing an ice axe or weeks of training. We enjoyed them so much we can't wait to share them with you. Let's get started. We're going to hike through these while asking a series of questions. So for those that are looking for the best hikes, the first question you need to ask is, what makes Grinnell Glacier and Glacier National Park so special? Grinnell Glacier is a journey through every type of scenery Glacier has to offer. You start in the mini Glacier Valley, walking beside Swift Current Lake and Lake Josephine, with water so clear you can see trout swimming below. Waterfalls tumble down from the glaciers high above, while wildflowers turn the meadows into a painter's palette. But higher up, you'll spot bighorn sheep or mountain goats if you're lucky. Then, after miles of anticipation, you crest the final rise and see the glacier spilling into a turquoise meltwater lake, a sight that's both breathtaking and humbling. So now, after seeing these views, your next question might be, how hard is the Grinnell Glacier Trail? The round-trip hike to Grinnell Glacier is about 10.6 miles with 1,600 feet of elevation gain, with most hikers describing it as moderately strenuous. The first half is gentle, but the second half gets steeper and more exposed, with switchbacks and narrow ledges in places. Some can't handle the fear of falling and turn around. But the final approach to the glacier viewpoint often holds snow early in the season. But more recurring, the wind can be strong enough to make you rethink your hat choice and whether you should proceed. Most people complete it in 5 to 7 hours, and you'll want to start early to beat both the crowds and the afternoon thunderstorms. But if you start later in the morning or after, expect two-way traffic the whole way, causing you to rethink your decision and definitely extending your time on the trail. Let's pause a minute and ask the question, what gear do I need for day hiking Glacier National Park? No matter which of these trails you take on, the gear list is the same, and bringing the right items can turn a long day into a great day. Start with bear spray and keep it somewhere you can grab in 2 seconds flat, because this is grizzly country. On your feet, go with sturdy hiking boots or shoes that have solid traction for rocky, muddy, or slick sections. Trekking poles are worth their weight in gold for saving your knees on the way down and giving you extra stability when you're tired. But if you fall, make sure you have a first aid kit, rescue rope, and also bring a flashlight in case you end up on the trail after dark. For clothing, think layers. A moisture-wicking base to keep sweat off your skin, an insulating layer for warmth, and a waterproof shell in case Glacier decides to throw a storm your way. But the sun at higher elevations can be intense, so pack sunglasses, sunscreen, and a hat. If it's cooler, pack gloves. Bring at least 2 to 3 liters of water or more if it's hot in a hydration day pack, and plenty of snacks along with a lunch, because all 3 hikes are long enough to need refueling. Take a compass, paper map, and/or an offline GPS, since cell service is sketchy in most of the park. We'll put examples of what we hike with in the video description. Read it now while you watch for ideas. Every good hiking video needs a dad joke, since it's good to pack fruit when you hike. Why did the orange lose the race? It ran out of juice. Okay, let's get on to our next hike with, is Iceberg Lake and Glacier National Park worth it? Iceberg Lake is one of Glacier National Park's crown jewels and definitely worth the effort it takes to get there. The hike to Iceberg Lake rewards you with stunning, almost otherworldly scenery, including a vibrant turquoise lake nestled in a natural bowl surrounded by towering cliffs that soar 3,000 feet above the water. What makes it truly unique is the presence of floating icebergs that often linger well into the summer months, creating a surreal and breathtaking atmosphere that few hikes can match. But along the way, the trail passes through lush wildflower meadows and subalpine forests where wildlife like moose, deer, and occasionally bears might make an appearance. When you arrive, the tranquil beauty of the lake and the dramatic rock formations make it the perfect spot to rest, have lunch, and soak in the peacefulness of this pristine wilderness. Whether you're a seasoned hiker or just looking for a memorable day in nature, Iceberg Lake offers an unforgettable experience that's absolutely worth every step if you can make it. We'll talk about trail difficulty next, but are you enjoying this walk and talk format? We share all of our national park videos in this way. Subscribe today so the next time you search about Glacier or another park we've been to, our videos will show up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the questions, and how difficult is Iceberg Lake Trail in Glacier National Park? For the scenery you get, Iceberg Lake is surprisingly approachable. It's 9.6 miles round trip with about 1,200 feet of elevation gain, and the climb is spread out so evenly that it never feels punishing. But note with these hikes that 1,200 feet is like climbing up the Empire State Building. The grade is steady enough that you can keep a comfortable pace without grasping for air, but it's still a long walk, and you'll want decent fitness and a good night's sleep. Most people finish in 4 to 6 hours, but factor in extra time for photos and maybe even a lakeside lunch. This is the least scary of the 3 hikes we will discuss today. And yes, you can take a swim. Just be prepared to make noises you didn't know you could make when you hit the water. Before we get to number 3, what's the best way to enjoy hiking in Glacier National Park? Start early, hike at your own pace, and don't treat the turnaround point as the only goal. The entire trail is the reward. Take time to soak in the views, especially while you return to the trailhead. Listen to the waterfalls and watch for wildlife. If you're in Glacier National Park for several days, space these hikes out so you can recover and fully enjoy each one. We actually took a day off and went into town for a movie. But in Mini Glacier, make sure to stop at the Swift Current Inn for some ice cream or other treat to celebrate your adventure. We've got more to go, but are you getting excited? Share this video with a friend to see who you can get to go with you. Okay, our final hike may be the scariest for those with a fear of heights, but before we get to that question, what makes the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park so special? The Highline Trail is often called one of the most spectacular hikes in America, and for good reason. It hugs the side of the Garden Wall, a sheer alpine ridge with sweeping unobstructed views of Glacier's rugged peaks, glacial valleys, and wildflower-covered slopes that seem to go on forever. From the very first steps, you're walking above the Going to the Sun Road with jaw-dropping panoramas in every direction. The trail is also famous for its ledge section, a narrow path carved into the mountainside where a hand cable offers some extra reinsurance. An adrenaline rush for some, a bucket list moment for others. Wildlife sightings are common here, from bighorn sheep and mule deer to marmots darting between rocks, and in the summer the wildflowers explode in vibrant color. For many hikers, the magic lies in the combination of exposure, scenery, and sheer variety. Every mile offers something new, from sweeping alpine vistas to the optional detour up to the Grinnell Glacier Overlook for one of the most dramatic views in the park. But there is no destination to the Highline Trail. It's an immersive, all-day adventure that delivers a front-row seat to Glacier's most iconic landscapes. How challenging is the Highline Trail? Difficulty really depends on how far you go. If you hike to Haystack Pass and back, it's about 8 miles round trip with 800 feet of elevation gain, and it feels moderate for most hikers. Go all the way to Granite Park Chalet or down the Loop Trail like we did, and you're looking at 12 to 15 miles with more elevation change. That's when it becomes an endurance challenge. For the full hike, plan on 8 or more hours, including shuttle transport back to your car. But there's one short section near the start at Logan Pass with a narrow path and a safety cable bolted into the wall. It's as scary as it looks, and so if you're afraid of heights, you might find yourself walking closer to the inside or abandoning the hike altogether. The trail is fully exposed, so weather can change in minutes. We started in a fog and ended the day with amazing views. We've also heard sunburn and snow are both possible in the same afternoon. If you love this video, check out another ultimate guide with this video next.